From humble beginnings in 1985, Javza has come a long way. We have expanded exponentially, growing into a thriving business platform. Today, Javza has become one of the largest business communities in the region that enables trade by providing efficient, productive, and innovative trade solutions. Javza is now a game changer in trade and logistics. The multimodal connectivity expands your market's reach to all corners of the world. The unrivaled benefits of establishing your enterprise in Javza enhances your success to a whole new level. Javza today is a prestigious address for thousands of successful companies across multiple sizes, sectors, and specializations. At Javza, we are fueled by your trust and inspired by your growth.
We've come a long way to get to where we are today. From what started as a single dream to enabling millions of dreams. From a handful of experts to thousands in our team. From two-wheeler to becoming a financing leader, we cover the length and breadth of our nation. As India moves forward, we move forward. With resilience, resolve, and determination. With a focus on digital and innovation, we are relentless in our drive as we strive to meet and exceed the evolving needs of being Bharat ka digital lender. In a market filled with increasing choice, we needed to find our unique brand voice. As part of our journey to tell our growth story, we spoke to people across the country, covering all our stakeholders from customers, channel partners, and employees. We sought inspiration in their values and aspirations. We breathe new life in our brand identity, framing human stories through windows of opportunity, reflecting our vision to empower upward mobility, broadening horizons through financial accessibility. Our loans symbolize a dose of confidence, the confidence to make it happen, the confidence to take action, to form collaborations, to go further than we have ever before, to become an inspiration and hero to all. Hero FinCorp, the confidence to make it happen.
From here, possibilities are everywhere. From taking first steps here, to beginning your own wealth journey here. From backing global trade ambitions here, to delivering on that promise here. From representing a team here, to empowering lives here, here, and here. That's why we're here on the ground. Here where you need us, in the world's most dynamic markets. A bank that connects potential to possibilities. So, where will you go from here?
In the heart of India's economic resurgence, a powerful pulse drives innovation and growth. This is ET Now. From breaking news to market insights, we bring you stories that matter, analysis that empowers, and shape the economic landscape of the nation. Join us as we navigate market complexities and spotlight global change makers. ET Now. Rise with India.
मैं हाँ दिलजीत दोसांझ
I really enjoy it.
One of the strengths of your country is clearly its youth. You have so many young people in a vibrant society with a lot of creativity.
It's trusted and reliable and curated. I'm a big fan.
Social in a good way. So the intent was to create a headline, possibly get featured in one of those brute videos.
मेरा ही डिजाइन है और 1 महीने में मैंने इसको बनाया है.
Yeah, we're a couple.
It is very liberating.
You have a famous hair flip that you do.
That's true. I haven't done it.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Oh, wow, brilliant.
Welcome to Dream Set Go, your destination for the most exclusive sporting experiences from the House of Dream Sports. Watching your favorite game from the stands feels great, but for some, great isn't good enough. They want something exclusive. Like cheering for your favorite team is exciting.
What's the point of personal loans for upskilling if you're going to get them this late? Always pick Sabse Quick. Loans from Hero FinCorp.
Everyone has a journey, and it has to begin somewhere. As we unveil your story with precision, we allow you to rest as ancient wisdom guides you. Imagine a place where we live in harmony with nature, without any change. Every raindrop collects and flows through the veins of the architecture. And as the sun appears, it fuels our entire existence. So our journey continues as we introduce our holistic ecosystem that builds the true meaning of clinical wellness. This way, Tula becomes more than a destination. It becomes a lifestyle.
From humble beginnings in 1985, Javza has come a long way. We have expanded exponentially, growing into a thriving business platform. Today, Javza has become one of the largest business communities in the region that enables trade by providing efficient, productive, and innovative.
We are all united in our desire for the same things. We want our businesses to grow, our careers to flourish, and our communities to thrive. We want to meet people who energize us, share exciting ideas, and discover new opportunities.
From India to the UK to the UAE and beyond, IGF is committed to bringing the contemporary India story amongst ongoing...
Hi.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everyone. How are we? A very warm welcome to you all to the IGF Forum 2024. And yes, we are absolutely delighted to be back and to guide you through our conversations and discussions today. And it's so fantastic to be reunited here back on the stage, Ben. We were, in fact, in Mumbai, I think, in about March time for the Next 10 event, weren't we?
Feels like a long time ago. A lot has changed since then. Since then, of course, we've been in London in June, and then here we are for the 4th edition of IGF UAE here in Dubai. Now, you'll see the phrase all around us, limitless horizons. We're talking a lot about that over recent days because we're going to try and look at some of the opportunities that may emerge in what is a pretty turbulent world right now. A lot is going on, so how do you find the opportunities amid all of that change?
Exactly, and we're going to examine what collaboration between the UAE, the Middle East and Africa really means if we are to harness a truly limitless future.
A couple of thank yous, as always, to our media partners, ET Now and Gulf News, and also thank you to our sponsors, including DP World.
Yes, and don't forget to download the app if you haven't done so already. You can find that on the QR codes, which are dotted around the venue here as well. That's where you're going to find the latest agenda for what's happening and, crucially, where and when. And remember to join the conversation using our hashtag, which is IGFUAE. In the meantime, I think Ben is going to kick us off with a very exciting interview.
Yeah, really busy afternoon for you. So, Laura, for now, thank you. And we're going to start with something a little different because we know that humour can change the way that people see the world. But can it help break down barriers and stereotypes too? Our next speaker does exactly that. She uses comedy to challenge social norms and discuss what are otherwise pretty difficult topics. And so please welcome Mina Liccioni, the comedian. Mina, come on up. Please take a seat. Nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Can you say my name again?
So I said Liccioni. Is that correct?
That's Liccioni. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I love it. I just got back from London. And the MC introduced me as Mina Liccione.
So
I had a row of men waiting for me after the show. I was like, it's not that type of show. It's not that type of show. He's like, no. But it's Mina Liccioni. You have to give me the hands. Give me the hands. Liccioni. One more time.
Liccioni.
There you go. He's in the club now. Mina Liccioni. And where are you from?
From London.
You're from London. Round of applause if you've been to London. You've been to London. It's nice, but I gotta say, it's not easy being an American in England. It isn't. Apparently, our voices are very annoying there.
I would say Americans tend to be quite loud.
Yes, that's
in the
why.
UK.
And my husband, he's local. He's from Dubai. He's very supportive. And he said, La Habibti, no, that's not true. Your voice is annoying everywhere. Yeah, so the next day in London, I took him to a place called the Chandler Cafe, and I went full annoying. Ow, my God, Chandler, you have your own cafe. They asked us to leave.
I'm not surprised.
But it was worth it.
You can never have too much Janice. We
but
like
we are.
Janice.
We're loud.
We like
We're loud.
Talk to me, Mina, about comedy and the ability, I mean, you've demonstrated it already, but the ability of comedy to break through difficult subjects, social norms, taboos. It's a way to talk about stuff
Yes.
that people are afraid of, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the challenge of being a comedian, we read the news all the time. My husband's also a comedian, and every morning we're reading headlines. We're talking about what's topical, what's in the news, and lately it's not very happy news. And we're like, okay, how can we talk about certain things? Because pain in time is comedy. But when you're going through some heavy stuff, it's not funny yet. So you kind of have to wait and find a way in to have moments of commentary and not sound preachy. Because if someone's preaching at you, you don't want to listen at all. So people tend to hear comedians more because there's truth in jest and it's a bit lighter. And we all need a sense of humor. Like, we need to laugh. We need that.
Does it mean there is truth in that phrase that if you don't laugh, you cry, or vice
Yes,
versa? I mean, that's our
absolutely.
two coping mechanisms.
Absolutely. And I ask myself that often. I'm like, am I going to laugh or am I going to cry? And alhamdulillah, I choose to laugh. I choose to find the positive, even if I can't see it at the time. I have faith that we're going to get through this, and there is going to be the light. It's an attitude adjustment, almost. You have to see the humor even when you're sitting in something that's not necessarily funny.
I mean, there are parallels here, because we talked about, the world being really turbulent. Where do you find the opportunities? And for you, it's like, where do you find the jokes in some pretty horrendous news?
Yes.
How do you do that while staying on the right side of it? I mean, because you can't belittle it. It is happening to us. It's happening to the world. How do you make sure you get it right? How do you make something funny but not offensive?
Oh, good. You're going to offend anybody with anything you say. If I go online right now and say, happy birthday, Mom, somebody will be offended. Somebody will be offended. So you can't worry too much about that.
Yeah.
Okay? But in terms of, it depends. If there's a cause that you believe in or a movement that you want to talk about, it just comes out. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you right now because I found something. Any parents here? Make a round of applause, parents. We got some parents. I'm a mom. I'm a mom now of twins. 2 boys. 2 boys, same husband. I checked. But our boys are half Italian and half Arab, so they were born with full beards and skinny jeans. And I brought them, look at this, as proof. I just found this is my son Sammy's skinny jeans. These are my son Sammy's skinny jeans, right? And I was looking at these and I was like, oh my God, they're so cute. But then when you look closer, you're like, wait a minute. There's a deep pocket here, a small pocket, a back pocket, another pocket, another pocket. That's 5 pockets. What does a 2-month-old baby boy have to put in 5 pockets? Now, more importantly, why do my adult women pants have 0 pockets? Thank you. Men, I don't know if you know this or not, they don't give us pockets. Okay, and we have tons of stuff to put in our pockets. We have phones, we have keys, we have money, we have snacks, what's left of our dignity, we have our hands. We have tons and tons of stuff. And then I thought about it and I'm like, this is a conspiracy by the handbag industry. If we have pockets, we will not buy pocketbooks. If we have a place for our hands, we won't buy handbags. Right? But then all over Twitter, I know it's called X now, but I will always call TCOM and not Barsha Heights, so I'm calling it Twitter. But you see all these hashtags, like hashtag no shave, no shame, hashtag go vegan. Well, we have a lot of hairy vegans. What we need is pocket equality. That is what we need. So I want us to start our own hashtag today. Call it pocket change. Okay? Hashtag pocket change. On the count of 3, I want you to yell out pocket change and show me how your change jiggles. Can we do that? Men too. You can jiggle. Ayua, ayua. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Pocket change. Jiggle, jiggle. And there you have it. There you have it. And this is something I'm telling you, she even said, amen, sister. But there is.
But what I love about what you just did there is about using humor to get us to talk about something.
Yes.
And it's equality, be it for handbags, pockets, whatever it is.
Yes, we need pockets.
You are really passionate about empowering women.
Yes.
Particularly in comedy,
yes,
but elsewhere. Why are we still having to talk about this in 2024?
Why are we still having to talk about what?
About needing to empower women in various industries. We have a panel later talking about equality versus equity. What is the best solution in a corporate setting? You know, why is there still inequality? Why is there still...
I don't know. I think that more women need to be up top. Like, end of story. There needs to be more female CEOs. But also, I think as someone who is in a field that there's more men in my field. I personally like being called a comedian and not a female comedian or a woman in comedy. It's just changing the language slightly. It's like, oh, she's a female doctor. It's like, no, she's not. She's just a doctor. Yeah. She's just a doctor. So it's not just one thing or anything. It's about opening it up completely. So it's also kind of just these small little wordings that will be there, and definitely more. There's so many more female leaders, especially here in the UAE. Come on, like you look at the stats, and it's pretty awesome. And I work with my husband and I. We started comedy school since 2008. And we had a lot of Arabs were taking the course because their English wasn't very good, so they were kind of nervous. So they felt very comfortable with my husband. But a lot of women signed up because they felt very comfortable with me. So from day one, we've always had equal amount of men, equal amount of women in all of our workshops. And the comedy scene in the UAE right now is really heavily representing people we have 200 different nationalities here. Yep. So we have all kinds of different nationalities. We have shows in Hindi, Arabi, Inglesi, men, women, and it was just about from the base. That's something that was very important for us, was to create this safe space and very inclusive for everyone, which is the UAE. So from there, that's how it's continued to grow. So if companies, and whether it's a startup, whatever it may be, if they have that from the beginning, everyone will fall in line and follow.
And what does that bring to comedy that, quite aside from topics, how does it change the nature of what comedy is? Because we talk about it in business, that boardrooms, C-suites need to reflect their customers. And I'm going to use the phrase, female comedians. What do they bring? What is the perspective that you can then discover, aside from just the topics? How does it change the nature of comedy? It just makes it more inclusive?
I guess it's like, again, my husband and I we're both comedians. So we understand each other very, very well. If he goes on tour, if I go on tour, and everywhere we go, we tell jokes about the same stuff. Yeah. We'll read the same article, and he'll write a joke and I'll write a joke. We will go to London and he has different jokes for the other side of this joke he will tell. Yeah. It's about kind of just opening it up and living it and being honest. I think a lot of artists and people in general, you have this social media front of who you want the world to see you as, but you have to stay true to your morals. Art reflects life. You know what I mean? And every time I do a joke that I might be a little bit nervous to talk about because it's a little personal, I hear women laughing in the back the most, and I know it's because they went through it.
Yeah.
They went through it. I went to a Moroccan bath. I did not have a very good experience. Let's just say I fell, I hurt myself. It was a horrible experience. But I decided to make that into a joke. And afterwards, I have many women who are like, oh my God, I went through the same thing. Yeah. And every year we go on tour for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we have so many women who come and afterwards actually go get tested, actually take their moms to go get tested. And without fail, after every single show, we get a message saying, I'm so glad you told me, because we found something, but we detected it early. Comedy, if people are like, go for your health, we're busy. We're like, I'd rather do something else. But if you tell jokes and through humor, and of course give them free vouchers, because who doesn't love free vouchers? Come on, come on. Then people are more inclined to actually take that moment to take care of themselves.
Do you tailor your comedy depending where in the world you are?
Yes.
You know, what works where?
Yeah, well, I think, because certain punchlines, like how I said, oh, TCOM will always be TCOM and not Barsha Heights, you can't do that outside of Dubai, you know what I mean? But if I did the joke about being in London, I could do that in Paris easily, because they don't really like Americans there too, apparently. I didn't know that. When I go to India, round of applause if you've been to India. They're like, yeah. It was a joke. I did. I went for the first time, and I didn't know that Americans now need visas to get into India. And my husband looked at me, and he was like, Habibti, that's payback. So I write, wherever we go, I love to just write topical jokes in that moment. When I was in India, I went to an Italian restaurant just for fun, and I was like, I love curry, but not in my cappuccino. And the guy gave me a pizza menu, and he was so kind, and they had mutton with paneer and pineapple curry pizza. I was like, astaghfirullah. They had butter chicken pizza. And I was like, no, sir, please, just pizza margarita. And he was like, sorry, madame, we don't serve alcohol here. It was just so cute. I was like, oh my gosh. But wherever we go, I think it's really important that you localize. My husband and I, we love food, we love to travel. So the first day, we always go out and experience wherever we are. And we write the first 5 minutes of our set, we make sure that it's about where we are. I want to honor it. You brought me to your country to perform. I want to say thank you, and I want to embrace that. So if we go to Australia, if we go to New York, wherever it is, the first 5 minutes will always be about where we are. And certain punchlines references will need to change. Over here, you can use a lot of Arabic references and Bollywood references. In America, not as much. They might be like, who? Bollywood? I don't know. So references will change, but the heart stays the same. No matter where you go, your heart, what you represent, who you are, your stories, your truth will always be the same.
So the local references, absolutely, because you know they're not going to work elsewhere. Do you ever worry about where you might be in the world of that's a bit risque, or I can't get away with that?
Well,
because I wonder here, because as you said, 200 nationalities here, you don't know who's in the audience.
Sometimes it's not even what you say; it's what you wear. It's what you wear. Maybe in certain places, I'm not going to say where, but in this past year, I was asked to change my abaya, to not cause any, no. And when I go back to America, absolutely. During this past year, they're like, Mina, can you not wear that? Can you not? Oof, I don't know about that. So it's not even, as a comedian, as a performer, it's not just my words. It's before I enter the stage, before I speak. I'm making a statement. I'm saying very clearly where my heart stands. So it depends. It depends very much. When you go to Berlin, you go to Paris, it depends. It depends on where you are. And sometimes if you're booked to perform in a place that might not be as open-minded, you have an opportunity to break stereotypes and make them laugh. I've had people come up to me after shows and be like, oh my God, I didn't know that the Middle East was safe. It's safe in Dubai? We were raised on Western media.
Yep.
All we know is Western media. So when they see an American come back, and it's just like, wait a minute, there's a lot of questions, which creates an open dialogue, which is amazing. And now so many more Americans are moving here. Good luck with that. But a lot. So it's about creating this open dialogue and being comfortable enough to ask questions. And I'm very happy to have these discussions after, because I didn't know when I first moved here either. I was like, oh my gosh, I had so many questions, and alhamdulillah, I had really nice people answer them for me, and then I made jokes about it. So it's full circle.
Final thought then. I mean, there might be a lot of Americans moving, given who's about to move into the White House.
Yes, yeah. We didn't learn anything from J-Lo. Never go back to your exes.
Give me a sense, for you, does that incoming presidency, is it a source of jokes, a source of fear, a source of joy? I mean, without
the thing
talking politics.
It's almost like deja vu, to be honest. It's like deja vu. It's like, I already did these jokes before. Right now, I think it's just about trying to focus on the positive.
You can recycle some though, can't you?
Nah, I don't even want to though, I'd rather talk about other things,
Yep.
But we'll see, I like comparison jokes, but I'm still hopeful. As angry and as upset I've been this year, the love and hope is way stronger. And you can't judge a person by their government. You can't, and there's so many wonderful people over there that are trying to make a difference and trying to make a change. And a lot of them really genuinely are like, I'm leaving the country, so.
We will see.
But with anything, I mean,
there's
gonna be jokes, and every day I read the news, it's something else. It's like, oh great, P. Diddy this, and this did this. The material writes itself, so.
It has been an absolute joy to talk to you, Mina. Thank you so much. And I'm going to get it right. Ladies and gentlemen, Mina Liccione.
That was pretty good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mina.
We're done here.
Thank you so much.
You're
so
a tall
nice to
drink
see
of water. I like
you.
it. Mashallah, mashallah. Thank you guys so much. Thanks,
Mina. Love it to see you. So follow that. We've got a packed agenda for you this afternoon, and I want to turn to something a little different. We talked a lot there about the future. I want to talk about the next generation now, and particularly when it comes to business, about skills. Particularly when we move into a digital-first world, do we all have the right skills for the future? How do we teach people the skills of tomorrow? What additional expertise will we need in future to keep up with the pace of transformation? Digital literacy and adaptability will shape our ability to work, to live, and to play. And so to discuss that, please welcome my panel, and I will introduce them to you in just a moment. Come on up. Nice to see you. Please, nice to see you. Please take a seat. Welcome. Hi, take a seat. Hello, nice to see you. Take a seat. I'm going to get you introduce yourselves each as we go along, but Heman, let me start with you because we look at the pace, the rate of change ahead. We know that our skills base is changing, but I wonder whether learning will be a constant thing in future, Heman, not just a one-off, that we're going to have to prepare ourselves to constantly keep learning.
Yes, absolutely, Ben. Thank you, and that's a great question, I believe. So, see what happens when we are looking for a digital tech in the organizations. What my role in that organization is, we are traditionally a staffing and recruitment business, right? So
I should say as well, you're at priority.com as well.
Priority,
I meant to introduce you, sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So what we traditionally look into is that the talent acquisition, right? And the upskilling and the upskilling of the talent is critically important. And what happens is the maintaining the talent and maintaining the skills of the employees have also been kind of in a disruption with the AI tech. So what we need to make sure, and what leaders must make sure, is they have a model for curiosity.
Yeah.
Right? And it is very simple. Organizations can foster a think tank. They can empower people to question the status quo, right? And they can generate the curiosity, what if, right? We often forget when we are engaging with the current organization, the employee, the talent pool, we forgot that question, what if? So we need to, one of the key things I speak to them about is we need to allocate resources, dedicate the days like innovation days, right? Foster thought, innovation lab, cross-function collaboration, and the discussion on the emerging technologies like AI. So that becomes a very critical point to inspire the idea from within the organization to promote the think tank that promotes the idea. So in an essence, I believe it is critically important to build curiosity, engage with the curiosity, and also measure and award the curiosity. What often happens is we do not encourage the activity and the engagement from the think tank. So we have to make sure we have matrix in place where leaders are involved and they are taking peer-to-peer discussions with the think tank, and they are measuring the ideas that is coming from the think tank. They're making sure those ideas are implemented, and they are equally awarding those curiosities as well.
Yeah, and that's the point, isn't it? Curiosity is such an important word, Chinmay. I'll bring you in here because, we talk about needing the skills and what we need to learn, but, how do we encourage people to be curious and not just play within the rules? Because, we learn the skills to deal with the technology, but how do we say, actually, it's not about that. It's about, being curious, using it as a tool to give you something else.
So Ben, before I answer that, if you allow me, I just wanted to do two things. So I just wanted to unveil my book and just believe me that this is not a marketing gimmick on behalf of IGF. This is a book that I have written, globally launched recently. Why I brought it here is because as leaders, I feel we have a great responsibility, right? And that responsibility is about delivering a modern workplace that takes into consideration the next level of employee experience. Yeah. And that is applicable to student experience as well, because two controversial statements that I will make, and if you're a parent, please don't hate me, and if you're a consultant, please don't judge me. I think that as parents, we are too bogged down with our kids' success, academic success. The other thing I believe is, as consultant, technology is dumbing us down, and I'm very surprised that I'm saying this. Being in this consulting field for about 2 decades, I see that Gen AI is really making dumb consultants, right? Coming back to responding to your question, Ben, I feel there are 3 things which can keep the curiosity or the creativity alive, right? If we as leaders, if we as parents, or in any shape or form, we as mentors are able to focus on 3 things, right? Yeah. One is making sure that innovation remains as an agenda, which is a lifelong agenda. The second thing I would say is we need to teach our students and the young consultants who we are grooming to have the problem-solving capability, because nowadays, post-COVID, as a leader, what I felt is that a lot of people actually get stuck with issues rather than the solutions, right? Yeah. And then the third thing I would say is the critical thinking, right? That's the third thing which I feel is lacking and is something which can be driven by leaders to keep the curiosity living and burning within an individual.
Yeah, that curiosity is a word that we'll keep coming back to in this discussion. Puneet, nice to see you as well. Welcome. Love your socks, by the way. Congratulations on the amazing socks. They're great. We talked there about AI, giving us the tools, but it will take on more and more within an organization. Do you think we're going to get to the point, maybe finally, where soft skills become the most crucial thing to an organization? It's not about an ability to process things or to use technology. It's about what can you bring that is a soft skill, largely creativity, I assume, or innovation. But we need to refocus what we prioritize within an organization.
Absolutely, right. So we're educators. I come from the Indian Eye Group of Schools. It's UAE's largest, oldest non-for-profit group of schools. We've got 13,000 learners. And so we have been grappling with this issue in terms of the role of technology, digital learning, curiosity, and obviously soft skills. There's a lot of pressure from parents and parents who want to achieve. You heard what Meena was saying, and we heard what Chinmay and Himanga are saying, the kind of expectations that parents set for their students and their learners. Right? If you look at Education 4.0, the framework by the World Education Forum, the World Economic Forum, it's very clear. Out of the 8 transformative skills, 6 of them are actually soft skills. You talk about character building, you talk about empathy, you talk about global citizenship, you talk about collective learning, and 2 of them are hard in terms of technical and data. So there's a very clear narrative and a very clear pivot that digital learning is the future, right? But unless we as organizations, so if I talk as an educator or as a school, what's my role? Right? Unless I provide an enabling platform to the students to experiment and almost mess up. We spoke about digital curiosity. Where is the platform where children are actually allowed to fail? We've seen the last 4 days, there was a child in the news, there was a Massachusetts federal judge who ruled that the child was expelled and they appealed in the court and it was denied. Right? My question in that is, there's a duty of care the school has, and did the school actually let that child fail, try an AI tool, an internal exam, and say, guess what, buddy, you got caught out. You shouldn't be doing that. So we have a duty of care. I don't think as educators, leaders, schools, entities, we are doing enough to train our students and to actually make them aware of the risks and potential. So we keep talking about digital literacy, we keep talking about digital curiosity, but where is the impact on the risks? Where is actually the consequences of the actions that they are taking? It's all about parental pressure, it's all about achieving and succeeding. And yesterday's dinner, Ben, you summarized it well, didn't you? When we saw Leander Pace's awesome video, we saw Suhail, and we saw Faisal. The talk wasn't about how you can achieve, be a go-getter, I'm an Olympic champion. This is what Leander spoke about his father and the kind of values that he gave. Suhail spoke about religion, the wonderful leaders of this country, and how they have actually spun the rhetoric to tolerance and empathy. We saw Brahmavihari Swami talking about why he has built the temple and the purpose behind it. So all of that is linked to the soft skills, is linked to the human element. And you look at Meena's session, no bot or AI could do that. So there you go. So that's why the focus has to be on the human being, on the person.
And Hemang, how do you measure that though? Because so much of our recruitment process is about, can you do this job? Do you have the appropriate skills to fulfill the roles of this job? How do you measure soft skills? How do you measure empathy? How do you measure creativity, innovation, curiosity? How do you do that?
So one of the key things I like to tell about this is that AI handle tasks and human handle people, right? So with the new tech, it is just that the technical execution of all the mundane tasks and day-to-day could be taken over by the AI in the next decade. We are assuming millions of people are going to lose their job only if we are not measuring the current skills and we are not upgrading the current skill with the AI, right? So things like leader focuses on is like vision, right? That is always going to be remain uniquely and emotional intelligence for a leader, right? To drive a team for a success, to achieve the organization agenda is always going to fall on the people. So we always have to make sure we have that collaboration within the team to enable the team to use the tech to achieve the mundane task and foster relationships and collaboration within the team to engage and achieve the organization goals. So I believe the soft skills are more about the complex decision makings, right? And AI is going to play more roles on the back office kind of things, you know?
Yeah, I still can't quite get my head around how we measure. We know what's going to happen, and it's got to be a process, hasn't it, of constant learning.
There will
because
be checks.
You can't leave university and say, right, I'm fully
not.
equipped for the world of work. This is going to be sort of a constant process of learning. Do you think enough organizations understand that yet?
Not at the moment, no, but we are seeing a lot of organizations are coming up and they are creating the collaborations. They are coming up with the days like Innovative Day, talking about the emerging technologies, talking about how we are going to enable the technology within the team, because the soft skills at the end of the day is how you're going to run your business as an organization. So measuring success at each level becomes very critical. From top management to the bottom management, you have to ensure each and every person is enabled with that technology. To give you an example, HDFC, one of the big banks, had run a test wherein they were providing a customer support using an AI tech. If a normal telecaller is deployed and answering the same question, that would take them 8 to 10 minutes. With the help of an AI, it was merely taking them 45 seconds. So I think organizations like HDFC and smaller organizations such as ourselves as well, we are enabling techs and we are making sure that each and every member of the organization is uplifted and utilizing the tech. And to keep that in check, leaders must engage and create the panel within the organization and discussion and measure that each and every part of that point is measured in success.
Yeah.
Right? So it will be more peer-to-peer decision.
Puneet's nodding along to you. I'll come to you in just a second. But Chinmay, the whole point of this as well is we need to take ownership of it ourselves, don't we? Maybe traditionally we've sort of relaxed a little bit and said, right, I've qualified, I've got my results, I've got my grades, my degrees, my whatever, and I'm ready now. This is a lifelong process where we need to sort of say, right, how do I keep myself fully equipped for what's coming next? Because we don't really know. We can make educated guesses about the future, but we need to sort of put ourselves in the best place and say, this is a process of constant reinvention.
True. So I probably think, Ben, that as the technology is, as we are engulfed and encompassed by technology, purpose-driven mindset is something which needs to be elevated.
Yeah.
Where we as humans, I believe, need to change ourselves is really look at, again, three things when it comes to mindset, right? And if you ask me what is mindset, mindset is two simple things. Mindset is the thoughts that emanate in your mind and the actions that you take based on those thoughts. I mean, if you take right actions, you probably will have a right mindset. If you take wrong actions, the results will not be the ones that you expect, and hence the mindset unfortunately becomes a challenge. So if you were to ask me to correct all this, I feel lifelong learning, as you yourself said, Ben, is something which needs to be inculcated from the student age. They can use technology, but should not get driven by technology. The technology should only be aiding them really understanding what they want. The second point that I will try to make with regards to purpose-driven mindset, I would say is more on finding the right mentor, which actually is a trait that is getting lost. Yep. A lot of people feel shy to reach out to people who they look up to. They probably would look at the flaws of those people rather than looking at how best they can get out of them.
Do you think it works the other way too, that people who would traditionally be mentors look at the next generation and say, what do I offer? It's changed so much since I did it. How can I be of help?
100%. That's a great thought, Ben. And say, I mean, in my book also, the book actually talks about the multi-generational dilemma, multi-generational workforce dilemma, right? Because a Gen Z working with me, I'm being a Gen Xer, and I actually worked for a baby boomer. It was completely different, right? I mean, I was fearful of my leaders. As a leader now, I have opened up towards Gen Zs because there is a certain way they want to work. They actually set expectations up front. They lay the foundation for how I should behave with them and how I should treat them. Yeah. It was completely different, right? So yes, I mean, as leaders, we also have to change and learn a lot from junior folks, which actually are reflective of the generation they belong to. Yeah.
Puneet, you're nodding along to all of this. Do you want to come in? I mean, where do you sit on this with students in school right now? Have they got that concept of knowing that this is the start of a long journey, that, you know, that constant reinvention and that constant learning is something that they need to focus on now to put the building blocks in place? Because it's changing so quickly. They could be training now for a job that doesn't exist in 10 years.
Yeah, so we know the statistic, right? 80% of the jobs that are learners of today don't exist today, right? So we all know that statistic. Again, what's the duty of care that educators have? Actually, my question, do the teachers get it? Do they get it that they're actually now enablers and they're tools, they're facilitators? It's no longer about listening to your own voice in the classroom. It's more bilateral. It's more about setting an enabling platform and the teacher and the educator being a catalyst. So I think it needs to start from there. The other bit that I think needs to be looked at and refreshed is we have this traditional model of working in a silo, where you have the curriculum, you have the syllabi, and everybody is moving to the standardized testing model and eventually wanting to get into a rat race. Unfortunately, I'm not a rat, neither are you. We're not rats. So why do we need to be in a race? Right? So it surprises people when I talk that way, that, well, you're heading a school, so what's this bit about actually moving away from academics? So again, what Chinmay and what Hemang are saying is important. Critical thinking and continuously learning. But it's all rhetoric. Where is the platform that is being provided to children of today, to learners of today, to move away from a conventional school? It's all about curriculum. The decision matrix are based on curriculum, location, price point.
Yeah.
It's not about what's actually taught. Right? And again, it's a very prescriptive approach. The best way to kill data curiosity is to prescribe. Right? You're just going to kill it. So we talk about a kid being curious at the Reggio Emilia approach or the Montessori approach. A young child gets all messy, experiments, experiential learning, and then makes mistakes and then moves forward. That's how we all learned, right?
Yeah.
And here now it's becoming extremely compartmentalized, extremely prescriptive, right? And I think that's where the learner is suffering. So unless schools get their act together, I mean, universities may disappear. There are boot camps that are coming up that are far more effective, but even schools, right? We need to really evolve ourselves. Does the regulator allow me to do that? Does the curriculum board allow me to do that? Does the examination board allow me to do that? Well, no, but you've got to make a move somewhere. You've got to make a start somewhere. You've got to draw a line in the sand and then set expectations clear.
And the thing that always fascinates me here is, what the expectation is of business, that who is training these young people? Is it the responsibility of schools and colleges and universities, or is it the responsibility of organizations saying, these are the roles and I will train you for them? And I guess you'll probably tell me it's a bit of both.
Absolutely,
but,
you're right.
Where does, which side does that fall?
So we are blessed to be in a country called the UAE. We got progressive leaders, right? So we got schools with 18 different curriculum, 300,000 students, etc. The fastest growing private education sector in the world. So you got a very progressive regulator in the KHDA. Again, so it's a work of the government as well. Again, the government here, His Highness has a very clear mission: zero bureaucracy and be an enabler and be a catalyst to the private sector.
Yeah.
So unless we all work together, it sounds very cliche, but it's as simple as that. Unless I work with industry and unless I work with government and we all work together, when I say I mean the education sector, and we all come together, we keep talking about children being critical thinkers, teamwork. Look at the education system. It teaches you how to actually ace an exam in individual scores.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, individual standardized scores.
Yeah.
Then I get to university and then I have some group projects. I really struggle and stumble my way. And then I get to their companies and I go to work in a team. But I'm not being taught that skill, have I?
Yeah.
I have not been graded on that. My curriculum doesn't allow me to grade for empathy and tolerance.
Yeah.
It allows a very individualistic way of thinking and curriculum. I come from a collective society, I come from a collective culture, but the curriculum I'm imposed, I'm not having a go, but Sohail said yesterday about the colonial impact, right?
Yeah.
He had a nice banter with you, nice banter there. But again, it's a legacy that really, it's a very individual approach. There's no collective sense in terms of grading and actually putting a score on the softer, critical, more important human side.
We don't have a lot of time, but Hemang, a thought from you, if I can, on what the pandemic did was meant we could work from anywhere. We could work from home. We could work from wherever in the world. Amazing in that it breaks down all those barriers. I could work for an organization on the other side of the world if I wanted to. That also clearly opens you up to global competition for that same job. But that assumes that there is the skills around the world. Is it universal that we are lacking certain skills, or is this a geographical problem? Because I imagine there's a hugely technical job. Where is the skill coming for that? Is it particular in a part of the world, or are we all competing for the same people now that we've broken down all these borders?
So actually, this has actually become one of the biggest problems right now for the organizations worldwide. And reportedly, 40% of the hirings are incorrect hirings all around the world, all around the sectors. Because what happens is the problem happens from the beginning, from the recruiting to the execution, right? And because we have embodied the work from home culture, the right technical assessment, the adaptive tests are not performed as they were used to earlier. Because right now, you can be sitting in Mumbai and deploying a software in America, right? Those settings, I remember, because we supplied to the NHS, I remember there was a time we were not allowed to touch the data from India because of course, you can't, because of the GDPR, you cannot cross-border transaction and you cannot have the data downloads. But since COVID, all those parameters have been lifted now. So you are allowed to download the data and seamlessly. There are benefits, but there are disadvantages as well, right? And you have to make sure like all of that critical execution happens and the deployments happen with the right set of tools. So. Yeah.
Perfect. Our time is up, but it's been so good to talk to you. As always, and I say this at all these sessions, they are short, they are just a shop window. Please find any of our panelists outside. I'm sure you'd all be delighted to talk some more about any of the issues. I'm really grateful for your time. So thank you to Hemang, to Chinmay, and to Pranit. Ladies and gents, please show our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Nice to see you. Thank you. Likewise. And I leave you in Laura's capable hands.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and thank you to Ben and his panelists. A fascinating session there on skills and leadership for a digital future. And time now to welcome our next panel here at the India Global Forum on reinventing success in the gig economy. And just before we start, just to give you a bit of perspective, the gig economy is rapidly gaining traction worldwide and was projected to exceed $450 billion this year, with the UAE and India very much being some of the key players in this as well. Right, so to tell us a little bit more and to tackle this topic on gigging for success, please give a very warm welcome to Noor Hassan, the CEO of Tarjama, who's with us here today. A very warm welcome to Noor Hassan. And please give a very warm welcome to our next panelist, Khaled Abu Qasim, the founder and CEO of Al Guru Group. A very warm welcome. Wonderful to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, gigging for success. Great topic, this one. So I wanted to kick things off first and foremost with you, Noor. I wanted to do a bit of scene setting in terms of what's happening here in the UAE, because the UAE's gig economy is set to grow at a compound annual growth rate of about 17% in the coming years. Freelancers, consultants, and part-time workers now make up around 10% of the UAE's total workforce, which is actually quite an impressive number. So give us a landscape overview and some of the key areas where you're seeing growth.
Thank you so much for having me. So if we look at global statistics, the expectations based on the McKinsey reports and all these reports coming out, by 2027, they expect 50% of workforce to be doing freelance. And if we look at today from talent acquisition, you will notice that lots of employees today want to do smaller tasks, not long-term commitments, and they want to change jobs. They want to do more than one job, more than one assignment. For them, it's learning. It's learning a new skill, multi-income, flexibility, work-life balance. So we're seeing that already. And this is why I launched the platform 6 years ago, specifically for that reason. When I launched it, it was probably premature to the region. People did not feel that they want to freelance. Everybody wanted the full-time job. And now I'm seeing it shifting, and I'm seeing companies want actually less employees on their payroll and more freelancers, more flexible, let's say, consultants instead of full-timers.
So we're going to, take a look at the future of this and where you think this is headed as well in just a moment. But Khaled, great to have you here. Now, you're based out of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is that right? Now, I was reading some really impressive figures in terms of Saudi. My goodness. Yeah. Over in Saudi, registered freelancers in the kingdom surged by 157% from 2020 to 2023. I don't know what the figure is for this year. So give us an overview of what's happening in the growth areas as well.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. So the gig economy is still new for the MENA region, specifically for Saudi. It's probably older as an industry for the UAE and Dubai, primarily because of the workforce mindset, right? So a few years back in Saudi, we didn't have many of the technical positions and the roles that are available today. The tech scene was extremely different. It was still at premature stages. And so obviously comparing Saudi today and the ecosystem there with the one that it was, a few years back, it's completely different. And so what that caused and created is a surge in, the gig economy specifically, because all of a sudden there's a lot of those technical positions that, the market is still not ready, is still not ripe to kind of like deliver and to give to the companies. And so what happened was, we saw that surge. We saw a few platforms. We saw Ureed expanding in Saudi and, being more accessible to employers and to freelancers itself. We still don't have disclosed numbers, but you just shared a metric on the growth and what does that reflect. But what I know for a fact is that in Saudi you would find quite a lot of frequency of people who have a primary full-time position and then especially with the Gen Z's, a kind of workforce. And then they would take on about 20% of their week's vacancy to other, jobs or freelancing opportunities. So that's kind of the trend that we're seeing now in the kingdom.
I was going to ask as well, do you think this is very much a generational thing? Is it for the next generation? Is this the next evolution of how we're going to see work? And do you think companies might even operate without these traditional employees entirely? Do you think that's something that we could see in the future now?
I think it is definitely a generation, and it's already the evolution of technology. It's not only a generation. If we look at the work before versus the work now, the number of hours required, the skills, we're seeing already a huge shift in everything. And if you look at what do employees want today, they want to learn something new. There's an element of instant gratification with this generation that we want it and we want it now, and we want to jump from one place to the other fast. They get bored. And that's because the technology is evolving. So they feel after a couple of years in one place, we've learned everything. This is great for us. We want to jump on the next thing. And post-COVID, we started seeing more this work from home, work-life balance. I want to control my hours. So I work with lots of consulting companies, and I already see it post-COVID. Most of consultants do not want to go back to the old, every week we're on a flight, 5 days, and then we're back. No, now we want to choose the client, we want to choose the assignment, we want to choose the days and the hours. And if you talk to employers have a problem today with employees when workload dips. So that's a discussion I've had with multiple people, like, what do we do with a designer or a marketeer sitting in our office in the summer where we don't have work? Is there a way where eventually we could share that employee with other entities? So there are discussions that are happening already on even leadership, policymakers, on the freelance visa in the UAE is something already that happened a few years back, is because people need this and employers need that sense of flexibility. I wouldn't say it will cancel completely the in-house full-time capability. It's going to be a hybrid between both, and I would say, based on all the statistics, it's going to be probably 50-50 in the coming maybe 5-6 years. What happens next, we honestly don't know, but it's from if you look at the technology today, you need an agency to do stuff for you. Now you have the agents coming in AI to do stuff, so it's canceling the agency model. So maybe if we think of the AI evolution in business, I do believe that there's a lot of companies today, the way they do business is going to transform and change, which will impact employees indirectly.
But however, there is, of course, with anything positive and different and disruptive, there are always going to be different types of challenges. So what do we need to do when it comes to sort of workers' rights, legal protection, the different sort of changing nature of employment relationships and things like that? How do you address those different types of challenges? And what would you like to see in terms of protection for this type of workforce as well?
I mean, from our end, our platform employs different type of gig workers, teachers, private tutors. That's what our marketplace offers. To us, we've maintained, obviously their protection through employment agreements or contracts, depending on the type of engagement that we have with them. Our gig economy is kind of more concentrated than it is an open marketplace. But we obviously maintain that with various guarantees and various protection clauses that we add in the contracts, and that's the best practice that we follow. Obviously, it would be different, I'm assuming, in other freelancing platforms. But yeah, to the question, that's what we're doing today with the teacher.
Perfect. Because that's the thing. It's like it's one to sort of go out and do your own thing and have the work-life balance, but you need this sort of like future long-term protection at the same time. I mean, I'm a freelancer myself, so I completely understand. But also, I wanted to talk a little bit, I mean, you spoke about AI very briefly just then. So are there any sort of new types of skills, and what type of upskilling and reskilling do you think that these types of freelancers are going to need within this new era of AI? Maybe that's to both of you, actually, yeah.
Absolutely. So I think everybody across the board, whether freelancer or full-timer, today they're required to learn the new AI, right? And they need to learn some skills. So for example, some jobs, we know for a fact that AI is going to somehow, I wouldn't say replace, but maybe disrupt in a certain way. Their input is going to be much more minimal. The AI will do 90% of the job and you need to do 10%. So what do you do with the rest of your time, and how do you gain more income? Because let's say, for example, if we take translators or content writers using Gen AI or machine translation engine, and the workload is going to drop to 30% instead of 100%, and then the pay will be less. So that means you need to learn a new skill, and probably a new skill maybe in the same language space could be data annotation, labeling, something prompt engineering, something that you can learn within your capabilities. And it's the same with radiologist or with paralegal or certain jobs that technology and AI is going to replace. And I think if you look today at the skill gap has been always a problem, even pre-AI. Now it's even bigger, wider, and deeper because the technology is so fast and we're unable to keep up. So lots of companies, I look at Microsoft, Google, and all these big giant companies doing all these reskilling programs for free, pushing them for people on top of government entities. And I think in every single company, there has to be a unit responsible for reskilling in the AI space, depending on what needs do you have. And it's not only reskilling, it's using the technology. Lots of people today, the way they use or interact even with ChatGPT is like a search, but in a different way. But there's much more to this technology that can be done today.
Completely. So Khaled, what's your take in terms of what this sort of demographic, the gig economy needs to do in terms of learning and reskilling and upskilling, especially with all this new type of technology, especially AI coming into the market?
I mean, just by looking into numbers, you mentioned 450 billion. 5 years ago, this number was approximately a little more than $200 billion. The market size globally was almost less than 50% what it is today. And obviously, that's been accelerated by COVID and all of that. The projections and the reports, what's publicly shared is that this industry is going to continue growing. My personal take on this is that the smarter the gig worker is with utilizing AI tools, the more demand they are able to efficiently manage. And so if this industry is growing and is going to continue growing, as mentioned by the CAGR rate earlier, then as a freelancer, as a gig worker, how will I be able to differentiate myself and utilize the AI tools that are already available online to take on more clients? And that's basically what would distinguish freelancers, because that's also becoming an issue nowadays. How can I distinguish freelancers? I have all those features that allow me to differentiate and compare, etc. But I think it's the efficiency of deliverables, it's the quality of the deliverables, which can highly be leveraged by AI tools, ChatGPT, or obviously more technical tools than search tools. So yeah, that's how I think freelancers in the gig economy can actually be riding the wave of what's happening while we're still exploring and understanding what will AI do to existing jobs, for example.
Exactly, and in every single one of these events I do, everyone's like, oh, is AI going to take over our jobs? And the answer is always like, no, the person that can master AI is the person that's going to take your job, basically. Yeah. And it's always going to be a co-pilot, and we're always going to be in control and things like that. But yeah, it's always
still too early to assess. Yeah. I think we still need a few more years for to basically uncover what AI is actually doing and how is it disrupting specific industries. But yeah, we've already started seeing incidents and use cases where AI is actually helping you deliver way more in a more efficient way in less time and less consumption, less energy. So yeah.
Really interesting. So what sort of potential do you think the gig economy holds going into the sort of next 10 years? I mean, we've seen so much growth already. Do you think it's really going to sort of take off from here?
I think we're going to see exponential growth moving forward, not the same growth we've seen. It's going to grow even faster because of the technology, because you're going to require different skills and you're going to require less number of employees as full-timers, and people are going to move towards that. So the speed of the technology evolution and the speed of where companies need to evolve faster, and the fact that everybody needs to look after efficiency, cost, and all of that. So that means you need to move people around from one place to the other. And I feel that the way forward is going to be more, I would say, freelance-based, more consulting, more part-timers than full-timers. And I've seen it already. My discussions with most of my clients are, can we look at staff augmentation for X, Y, and Z, but we don't want full-timers?
So interesting. Well, what's your take on that? Do you think the gig economy is going to take over?
I mean, again, like just looking into the numbers and the market, obviously there is potential growth, but more so than that, in our region, I think it's going to expand even further and larger than other markets because awareness is there, adoption is there, technology is there as well, which is very important. And the service providers are also extremely there, connected all over the MENA region, right? For the MENA, it's way easier probably than other markets because we speak the same language. We have a huge population. And so you can get connected with freelancers and experts from all over. And that's just talking regionally, let alone internationally. In our marketplace also, we've seen that growth happening over the last 4 years specifically. We've went from, and obviously all of that depends on the demand, but we've went from 15, 20 teachers who were teaching approximately 50 to 60 students to almost 850 teachers today. So that also growth rate tells you a lot about, and that's only one vertical in the gig economy, teachers, let alone other positions that are filled within that industry. So yeah, the journey is pretty exciting ahead for this economy, and I think the region again is just getting started with that.
Really exciting time ahead. I'm glad I'm in a good position as a freelancer I am now then. It's going to take over.
You should be ready.
Brilliant, I'll be ready. But thank you so much. Sadly, as always, we run out of time, but a really fascinating discussion. And any other further questions, please do make sure to speak to our panel. In the meantime, let's hear it for Noor and Khalid. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yes, next up, ladies and gentlemen, we will be welcoming May Ben Khadra from CNBC Arabia with her next panel on a hybrid world. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. It's another great session we're going to have here today. But before we start, I would like to ask you a question. How many of you did use Teams or Zoom prior to COVID, prior to the year 2020? How many of you did they interact this way? Only a few. And how about after COVID, post-COVID? See, everybody, that includes me. I've never thought that I will be doing online meetings with my boss online. And believe me, I thought it's going to be easier than having it face-to-face, and it's not. It's just even more difficult. So today, this is the session that we're going to be discussing. We're going to talk about the next frontier for networking and this hybrid, this mix between online meetings and face-to-face. And we have great speakers here today. They're going to talk to us about where do they see the future, and they are the co-founders and founders of High Table. Please welcome Anil Shetty, co-founder High Table Networks, and Arishia Rashid, Chief Outreach Officer, High Table Networks. Thank you so much for joining us. Please have a seat. So it's a very beautiful topic, and I feel like I've been selected for this topic because it's something that intrigues me, that prior to the year 2020, communication was at a certain level. Post-2020 and COVID and whatever hit the word, it was just at another level. But I would like to start with you, Anil. And first of all, when we talk about the creation and the inspiration for High Table, what can you tell us about this? I mean, did you look at the professional networking platforms and you thought that there's an opportunity there to create something as High Table?
Well, High Table is an offline social networking platform not only restricted to professional networking, but it's an interest-based networking platform. We want less people to engage in the app and use app as a tool to coordinate meetings and meet offline. Currently, the app has simple two functions. One, you can just go and host a table anywhere, specific location and specific subject, and others can go reserve a seat on that table which is hosted by people of different interests. So it remains as a simple group meeting coordination app. Lesser engagement on the app, people don't meet on the app, so you really don't know who is coming on the table, only the host will know the rest of the people, and the attendees will know who the host is. So when you go and meet them in real, there's a bit of surprise element to it. Same time, because it's based on shared interest, you know that you are going there to talk, have a real life conversation. So that's the simplicity of this app. It is just an offline social networking which enables real life conversations and which eventually we hope builds real connections.
So that's great. I'm sure that you use social media as all of us. So to what extent your use of social media platforms and other communication platforms was integrated into the creation of High Table?
Yes, because we believe that people are online, billions of people are online. And to take them offline, it's very interesting. We were offline and the big tech companies took us online. And now we have to do the little bit of reversal to take this probably my generation and the subsequent generation offline so that we build the real life connections. What I see is that as the virtual world picked up and we all hide behind the screen, we are a part of a lot of community. So we humans are designed to be part of community. So we can never live alone. And in fact, we just had that conversation, remember that thing. So I am a core believer of the idea that we are social beings and we will always be a part of the community. But in the last decade, the more communities formed online than offline. So mine and the subsequent generation lost the art of real life connections because there's always a screen in front of us and we hid behind it and spoke to the people online, as like whether it's Zoom, whether it's Clubhouse, anything. But actual being a human, it's very important to build the connection in real, because in-person meetings can never be replaced by the virtual meetings. So that is a core idea that let's help the newer generation build real life connections, let them get out of their phones, which they spend a lot of time only scrolling. I should not be referring them, like it includes me, and we want to get out. So that's why we decided that we need a simple communication app. High Table, why the name High Table is important. So because I'm a big movie goer, so I watch almost one movie a day. So you may ask that how do you get 2 hours 15 minutes time, and I'm not married, so you will have the time. So High Table is the name I picked from John Wick movie. So it's a table, if you see the 12 people table, and each seat is reserved to a mafia don. So there's an elder. The elder is a host. So we just did the different things. So here there's a host and there are attendees, and the host is the one who brings people together. So it's only between host and the attendees, and host becomes the central part to bring people together and break the ice, and then the conversation flows.
What is a very interesting idea. So Arshia, I would like to ask you, I mean, COVID changed everything. It changed different sectors, different industries. It changed how we view our own lives and our daily tasks, and of course, the communication landscape overall. So to what extent what we experienced and what you experienced in COVID was also integrated in your vision for High Table?
I think we can all agree that post-pandemic a lot changed, and we live in a world that we believe that dialogue is the crux of finding common ground between us humans. But having said that, I think we also represent a generation that really highly depends on the virtual image that we create for ourselves, but when put into a social setting, it's not okay for us to go out there and have conversations. Like the basic art of having conversations is lost. So us at High Table, we just want to bring back those times and make it normalize it again to sit down and have meaningful conversations with people.
But very, very true, and especially that during COVID, we have reached an understanding, a complete understanding of how important it is to communicate between each other. So, Anil, back to you, and to what extent do you think that it's easy to strike a balance between, technology and meeting online, and at the same time having a human interaction?
Well, I believe that technology should only be the tool. It should not be the life, correct? So technology should become the enabler of our lifestyle. We should not get lost in the technology, and like for example, at the end of the day, we are an app, right? So it is a technology which helps us bring people offline, and to make use of the technology, yet not lose the very essence of who we are as humans are most important. And we all use technology to an extent that our life runs on it, right? But at the same time, it's very important that the human connections are more important than the technology. Even though there are people who could say that without the technology, we can't do anything, but there existed a time without the technology, people used to live, right? So I think currently, if you see many social media platforms, and whether it's Instagram, which becomes a social commerce app, it's LinkedIn, which becomes a professional networking app, Twitter, which is the opinion making app. It's all of this thing only actually the enabler of who we are, correct? So it enhances our lifestyle. It should not become the inevitable. So to our own individuality, right? So I think we maintain our individuality and we interact with other human beings as the other human being, and not to always have the layer of technology which separates us from our real self.
No, but there are also the cultural changes and the cultural differences. So to what extent does that as well affect how we interact online, whether through platforms like High Table or through social media platforms overall? This cultural element, this cultural factor, how do you see it being integrated in the future in communication platforms?
I think, of course, we are divided among nationality, race, different cultural backgrounds, different economic background. But there's one thing common, is that we all have shared interests as humans. That alone is enough to build a connection with one among 8.5 billion people, with anyone. So, like for example, I'm here today in Dubai, right? And I'm a fashion entrepreneur back home, and I want to meet fellow fashion entrepreneurs in Dubai. That's an interest, shared interest, right? So I float a table on High Table saying like that, guys, I have a table reserved at so-and-so cafe, Twice Cafe, which is close by, and I want to meet fellow fashion entrepreneurs. What High Table does is that it sends out a notification to those people who have this similar kind of interest, that Anil Shetty from Bangalore is here, he's back home a fashion entrepreneur, he would like to meet a fellow fashion entrepreneur. So they have an opportunity to come on my table and discuss probably the cross-border collaboration of fashion entrepreneurship, or share some of the insights from learning from different markets, right? So for example, morning, so I was on her table, she hosted a table pre-IGF catch-up. Like we met a couple of people last evening, and today morning she hosted a table, and 6-7 of us are on the table and we had fun. And interestingly, all of us, like I knew few of them, otherwise all of them met for the first time. And I believe that everybody is a stranger before you meet. At the High Table, we are on a mission to bring strangers together who eventually end up being friends, partners, business partners, life partners, co-travelers, anything and everything. And you actually barged into our table last night.
That is true. That is true. So I have 2 minutes left and a quick one. I personally have a problem whenever I'm on an online meeting, is that the energy doesn't get through. You know, meeting someone in person, you kind of get a sense of his energy or her energy, and you know, to what extent does she fit your character, whether it's a personal meeting or a professional meeting. Any advice for me on how to tackle that? Because it's really a challenge for me whenever I'm on an online meeting, that I'm trying my best to get who I really am through.
Honestly, we do not need tips to have a conversation with someone we meet for the first time, because that's the art that we've grown up with, and as humans, that's something that comes naturally to us. But funny story to add to that, I met Anil last year at IGF. I was representing a different company altogether, but today we are on high table as co-founders. So I think mentioning, like, if it's a first date, you never know that first date could be your business partner, could be a romantic partner, or could be someone that you could get inspired with, is why, like, on the app, we allow having like 4 to 10 people, where the host becomes an icebreaker between people. So because it's a curated table, the host is engaging with everyone and making everyone feel comfortable and getting them out of their comfort zones and just having conversations. So I think the only tip would be to be yourself and go out there and explore and meet people.
That's a great one. Thank you so much, Arshia, and thank you so much, Anil, for this beautiful insights. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give them a round of applause before I introduce the next panel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. So for the next panel, we're going to talk about the great debate. It's the words that you hear most often is it equality versus equity in leadership? And Ben Thompson is your moderator. Ben, please.
Thank you so much, May. Thank you. Now, as you heard there, we're going to talk about equality versus equity and what that means day to day. Let me run you through some of the numbers, because nearly 2.4 billion women around the world don't have the same economic rights as men. So I want us in this session to look at what equality means versus what equity means, why they are different and why that is so important, particularly when it comes to how leadership works. Does empowerment mean treating everybody the same and creating specific opportunities to create a level playing field, or is there something more fundamental that needs to be addressed? So to discuss that, please welcome my panelists. Who are? Oh, please, come on up. There you are. Normally you're coming from the distance. It's hard to see from up here, so please come and take a seat. Nice to see you. So let me introduce you to them. Amna Amjmal, who is Executive Vice President of Market Development, MasterCard EMEA, Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, who's the founder, president of the Avtar Group, and Shivani Bashin Sachdeva, who's the founder and Chief Executive of India Alternatives. Welcome to you all. Really good to have you here. Thank you. Shivani, let me start with you if I can, please, because talk to me about that very issue, equality versus equity. There is a really important difference here, isn't there? Just highlight, for people who aren't aware of those two terms, they tend to be used interchangeably, incorrectly. Why is it important that we talk about them?
I think it's really important to talk about equality versus equity, because just because you say today, let's make sure that everything is equal between men and women, that doesn't mean there is equity. So I'll give you a very funny example. But let's say you look at washrooms in a space, right? Let's say you look at a mall and you say that there is a certain amount of area for washrooms, and let's say that the person designing it decided that it should be equal. Now, if you have equal space for washrooms for both men and women, this obviously means longer queues for women. Women will take longer in the washroom, so there will be, again, it'll be more inconvenient. I know I'm throwing out a very funny example just to wake people up at this time, but so therein is an example of where someone thinks that they're being equal, but there's really no equity in this.
It's a really important, it's a really good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And let me bring Dr. Soundarya in here, because you're such a champion for women's inclusion. And I talked about this with our comedian at the start of this, with Mina, that why are we still talking about this? Why are we still needing to talk about this in 2024? But it is still a big problem, isn't it?
Because I think it's a lot to do with the money behind it. Because it's business. India loses about 20% of its GDP because we do not have gender equity in leadership. $40 billion is lost by the UAE each year because the number of women in the workplace is not matched by the number of men, in the sense that the same equal number of men and women does not exist here, right here in this amazing cultural, sort of a coming together that happens here in the UAE. Mm-hmm. And when you look at equality and equity, I think it's very simple. Let's not get confused about the two terms. Equality is like kind of, the destination, and equity is the route you take towards that. So if you were to, very simply look at it this way, equity is about a little more of the pesky, irritating, tough things that you have to do in the workplace. Like you have to challenge a microaggression. You'll have to look at, unfairness and then call it out. You'll have to look at different policies for men, women, for Emiratis, for expats, for people who've taken a break in career and come back. So for all of these things, if you have to have different policies, that is equity. Equality is slightly broader issue. And from a workplace perspective, it's always going to be work in progress. So, there's this joke about equality and equity, saying, once the two of them, there was a equality advocate who came to an equity party, and what did he bring? He brought a ladder because he wanted to, take the level up to the next level. So you have a lot of discussion going on about equality and equity. But suffice to say that for every country, every business, inclusive teams, diverse work cultures, and business success matter. Yeah. And the route to that is equity, which means doing something very specific for each community, each level of career, each kind of ability, each gender, each race. So how can you give them what they need in order for them to succeed? Yep. That's really what equity is all about. And
Amna Ajmal there on the end, welcome. And I'm going to fixate around the use of language here too, because it is so important to get this language right. And I want to use the word empowerment as well, because, and let me put this to you, does empowerment mean treating everybody the same?
So maybe I may not be the most appropriate person for this panel. For me, it doesn't matter. I do not think it's worth debating equity versus equality or empowerment, inclusion, does it mean equal or not? The fact that the last UN report said that it would still take us 136 years to achieve gender parity, it should be enough for people to just wake up and take some action. An action can be small, an action can be big. And when I'm at this stage over here and I'm sharing my voice, I would say each one of us here in this room, or people who are watching us, or people who know on social media that we're talking about this here, they have a responsibility. Just do your tiny part and the world will change.
What might those parts be?
Let me give you a small example. I was talking in the morning at the Global Women Forum, right? I have some great, super talented men in my team. One of them is a brilliant father. He had twins. He's making sure he's there for their bedtime. He's making sure that actually he is always doing the drop-off for his kids. But how many times do I see men talking about childcare at work? I'm a senior leader. I would say in a day, if I'm attending 14 meetings, at least 2 of them I'm mentioning my kids, right? I don't see my men peers doing that. Why? Even though they're doing the same because the world has changed, they don't do that. So this particular individual, why won't he talk about the fact that he's such a great father and he's doing that. He would talk to me one-on-one. So I encouraged him, say that in the open space. There are 5 women sitting next to you in the open space. You would normalize childcare. So the woman over there who just returned from maternity leave would not feel that she's the only one who has to leave at 4 p.m. because she has to pick up her kid from daycare. It's such a small action. By doing such a little thing, you would actually normalize childcare. It's not a gender-specific thing. Let's forget about definitions for a second. Let me give you a second example. If I'm talking over here about gender equity, equality, empowerment, inclusion, world should be the same and all of that, I go to my office and I'm doing my town hall. 80% of the people in my team are men. And then I say, oh, you know, because financial services and technology is a very male-dominated world. I'm not walking my talk. And people can see through it. So you have to walk your talk. 70% of my direct leadership team is women, running massive big P&Ls. Risk-taking. How many times do we say that let's go for an external candidate because we cannot find an internal candidate fitting for this role based on a 1-hour interview? We can give a job highly likely to a man, but we would not look around in our own office and say, here is a woman, 60% she qualifies for the job. Research proves that women do not raise their hand as long as they do not feel they qualify 100% for the job. Men raise their hand for a promotion even if they're 50% qualified for the job. It means as a leader, I have to push the women, whether I'm a man or a woman. Doing such a small thing, if its job is open, you go to one level below, the grade which is one level below for whom this could be a promotion and say, hey, why don't you apply for this job?
Yeah, yeah.
These are the things we need to do if you want to change the world.
I also find it astonishing you said you might not be an appropriate person for this panel. I mean, you've just given us the most amazing examples of why you are appropriate for this panel. So, and Dr. Sondaria,
Yes.
Let's look at some of the change that needs to happen. And we heard brilliant examples there of what it looks like at MasterCard. Little actions, big actions. We can all take these actions. Where do we start, though? I know a lot of work is already happening, but it's hard for people to get a grasp of what significant change just a little action, talking about childcare, bedtime, going home, can mean.
You know, in India, my company, Avatar, we run the nation's largest diversity analytics exercise, which is called the best of the best, in India. And 2 months back, we brought the same program here to the Gulf. It's called Best of the Best Gulf. And what essentially happens there is really a coming together of organizations that say that these are the things we do in order to make that change in our workplaces. So they talk about mentoring, they talk about sponsorship, they talk about bringing back women after a break, they talk about upskilling, they talk about, leadership influence, like what she was mentioning. So there's a bunch of all of that happening. And in India, over the course of 8 years, we have had a 9 percentage point increase in the workforce representation of Indian women on account of this kind of a movement.
Yep.
But if you ask me to pick one thing which all of us can do, and it doesn't matter if you're a big corporate, small corporate, if you're a MSME, if you're an individual, but you want to do something to make sure that that change happens, that equality which is the goal happens, then I will pick self-awareness on biases. In every organization, in every business, and we work with about 400 organizations in India and another equal number outside of the country. And we find 3 biases which actually really create havoc. The first bias is bias in hiring. And we do not know that we hold those biases because these are non-conscious biases. The second bias is bias in customer service. Without even knowing, we offer biased customer service to different kinds of customers. We treat one kind in a particular way and we treat another kind very differently.
And it's too easy to pretend that is about personalization, isn't it? Or the idea that we're offering something unique.
If it really results in personalization, that's great.
Yep.
But if it results in me feeling small because of the color of my skin or because of the fact that I dress differently and I'm not receiving that kind of a service, then that is a bias.
Yep.
And the third kind of bias that we find is bias in product development, where you have actually, for instance, very recently, I think a couple of days back, I heard about this, gaming control controller or console called Protean. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. It's actually a console which can be put together, completely dismantled and put together because it serves gamers of every kind, gamers of different abilities, gamers for people with disabilities, women with small hands, you know, and because the business wants to increase the kind of customers they want, they sat together, put their heads together and said that we cannot have this one type of gaming controller because that means it doesn't help everybody experience that product in the same way. Yeah. So if we are able to tackle these three biases, you know, bias in hiring, bias in customer service, bias in product development, I think we'd have done our bit for the world.
Yeah. One size does not fit all, does it? Shivani, let's look at this from an investment point of view, because I know that's your expertise as well, isn't it? And talk to me about the gender lens when it comes to how you might choose investment opportunities. What does that change about the mindset, do you think, about how you would consider investment?
So I think it completely changes the mindset. I think what's happened over time is in India, you have many more women that have gotten into things like accounting, law firms, you know, even startups. So lots of women that are starting companies. If you look at pre-COVID to post-COVID, I think the last data that I pulled out from DPIIT showed that around 3,600 startups were run by women. But the problem is, in my business, I'm a private equity investor, I'm a fund manager, there is an abysmally low percentage of women. So what that means is you have a whole bunch of men that are making investments. So oftentimes, to pick up her point on bias, they don't realize it, but the lens is biased. So you don't have things that would be beneficial to women that are getting invested in. Of course, for me, my primary objective, because I have a fiduciary responsibility to my investors, it's not my money, so my fiduciary responsibility to generate returns. From a return perspective, it's ridiculous as well. Because of the fact that if you look at the global market and women as influencers, and this is even more true in India, right? And let's say women control 60 to 80% of all consumption decisions. Then I would argue that it is the largest addressable market in India with a potential of $1.5 trillion. So if you don't apply gender lens investing, you are doing women a huge disservice. You may enter a strange world where women are excited about starting these companies, but are just not getting enough funding for them to grow and succeed. And you are doing yourself a disservice because you are ignoring one of the largest markets out there. So it's not that you're doing anybody a big favor by putting on gender lens investing, it's simply smart business. And in fact, the IFC World Bank came out with a report that said that women balanced funds, so gender balanced funds generate, I think it was 1.7 percentage points incremental IRR every year. Now that doesn't sound like a lot in 1 year, but if you think about that compounding over a decade, that's a significant difference. So what I would like to bring to bear here is that we're not doing women a big service by the point of equity and equality. It's smart business. It's helpful to everybody. To draw your point about, even paternity and why should the woman do that. In fact, I was addressing a whole bunch of people recently at a large financial services firm in India. I was addressing the men and the women. And I asked the men as a thought experiment, I said, how many of you would be unhappy if you could go home at a more normal hour and spend a little bit more time with your family? Or rather, how many men in the room would like to do that? Every man in the room put his hand up. So I don't understand what we're doing.
Yeah. And a final thought to Amna on the end. It just because that is absolutely the point. And we were talking about this as far as sustainability is concerned next door. It's not a nice to have. It's not a but I'll do it because it's paying lip service to it, or because it's good for business.
It's not just lip service. It's not like I'm going to do this because I feel so good. I'm a gender rights activist. You're just a smart business person.
Yeah. And it is good for business. If your organization, be it MasterCard or any other organization, reflects its customers, that has got to be a winning formula, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's also high time that we stop justifying it, because it's so simple. If you cannot run a world where half of the world is not included in designing that world or in running that world. It's as simple as that.
Thank you all. There's so much more we could talk about, but yeah, we rattle through it. And I know these discussions will continue over coffee outside, as they always do. So I'm really grateful to all. Ladies and gents, my panel, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Love it to see you. Thank you. Laura's capable hands.
So much. What an excellent session there. So interesting. And that actually, ladies and gentlemen, leads us incredibly nicely into our next session here. And we have a very special guest with us this afternoon who is here to talk about resilience in action. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by the first ever UAE female aircraft engineer who has not only defied societal expectations, but also has become a beacon of inspiration to countless young women. And she is joining us here today to talk about resilience and to share her journey. So ladies and gentlemen, please do join me in welcoming Dr. Engineer Suad Al-Shamsi, the first UAE female aircraft engineer and Vice President of Shahana. A very warm welcome. So fantastic to have you here. Let's sit in the middle here, shall we? Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us here today at the India Global Forum. First and foremost, what does it mean to be then the first ever UAE female aircraft engineer? I mean, no one can take that away from you. You are literally the first.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and welcoming everyone, either from United Arab Emirates or who came all over for the amazing India Global Summit today. To be honest, I never thought about it. I want a title. I'm not a title person. So anyone met me in real life, they asked me, what should I call you? I told them I love my name. It's like without doctor, engineer, the first. It's very important for you to be passionate about your career. But when I graduated from almost 24 years, and I came back to United Arab Emirates, and every newspaper, TV, interview is like, I don't know what is going on. It's still young. And when they told me that you are the first in the industry as an aircraft engineer, not only in UAE, in the Gulf country, it's nice. You feel so proud. You feel very happy, but in the same time, it's a responsibility. What should I give to the country? Because I did all my education. It's been supported from the government and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai. And the most important, what I should give back to the community, to the youth, and to my family. So it's a nice title. I'm proud of it, but it's given me more responsibility to give many years in advance.
As you said, that title, with that title comes, a lot of responsibilities you mentioned. But what exactly was the pivotal moment that made you think, right, I want to get into this male-dominated field? Or was it literally just the love of the subject? And it was something, if you're good at something, you go for it, I suppose, right?
I was good in math. I was the first girl bringing full mark in the high school, 300 over 300 in United Arab Emirates. And they asked me to repeat again the exam because they were shocked. I was so crazy about math. I was so crazy about science, but I wanted so badly to change the mentality that women, she should be in medical or media or business. So when actually in the school, they ask you what you want to be when you grow up. And because I come from Arab country, Arab background, I never be able to speak English. So they thought like I will be in social study and normal. And I wanted to change the mentality, like why we have to choose what women can and what she cannot. I do believe if she can run a house, if she can be present today as a mother, as a role model for her colleague, she can run a company, she can be whatever she wants. And today, we are present here. We know how we should look like, how we be present, very beauty. But again, our mentality with our kids, with our work, with our family. So I think women can be whatever. So this is why I decided to be in this field.
I think that does deserve a round of applause. Where did that sense of equality come from? You said you had it from sort of childhood. Did you grow up with a lot of men in your life, with brothers or anything like that? Anyone that inspired you in that way?
Actually, who inspired me? My mom. I never grew up with a lot of big family. We are actually total 4. And she was a single mother when she was 26 years old with 4 children. I was only 10 months. My brother, he was 2 years, the other one 4, and the bigger, my sister, she is 7 years. And 4 of us, we are holding PhD. And my sister, she's the first pediatric surgeon in United Arab Emirates. I'm the first as a craft engineer. My both brother, they are the first in their career, and she completed her education after my father, he passed away. So it's nothing impossible for a woman, and she inspired me every day with my kids and how I should be in the future. And there where I should say the family support and looking forward to be leader, because I do believe women born to be leaders.
What an exceptionally intelligent family. My goodness. Some very good genes there, my goodness.
Thank you.
So I was reading some UNESCO figures, and 50% of graduates in the MENA region are actually women. It's a huge, huge number. So many people are interested in this subject. So many people do well in terms of graduating and getting into it. But there's always this bridge, isn't there, from getting graduates then into the workforce. There's a lot of society pressure, cultural traditions, things like that. What are the issues in your mind? What do we need to make sure that we can get women into the workplace?
Awareness is the most important, because today we can see a lot of female, and especially the youth. The way with the social media technology today, everyone with the phone, they are very impressed with maintenance field or aviation or maybe engineering. But the problem, they want everything fast. They don't want to start from the first step or the first stage. They ask, especially with my student, they all ask me, when I should be engineer? Will I get married? Will I have children? And the problem, what we actually put in their mind, that if you will be in this field, you will never get married. If you will get married, you will get divorced very fast, or you will quit your job. You will never have a children. And I told them, there I'm an example. I have an amazing partner. I have 2 children, 6 and 10, and they are big supportive. It's not who are you. It's the most important. You judge yourself. Don't let people to determine what you cannot or not. Yes, high percentage people enter to the field, have their education, but the problem with the awareness, and when you come to the company, they always judge you as a female. And here where it's the leadership, and the leader should actually spread the awareness, educate the female, and give them their right in the company and the university. And you will see in our field, not only in the aviation, in any industry, it will grow very fast.
When it comes to judgment and challenges, what sort of judgment did you feel you had, and what challenges have you had along the way? I'm sure there have been many.
Starting to be a female Arab, I never been able to speak one sentence in English. Overweight, and all of type of judgments surrounding me, it's give me zero hope that I can be in this field. So every time I got the judgment that you cannot, I keep laughing like I'll do it. So it started to change my personality. It's for myself, not for the other judgment, and to reach to my dream. And the most important, to show the world what you want, who you want to inspire. If I want to inspire only the other, I'm not in the right track. If I want to start to inspire myself, then inspiring the other, it's the most important. It's always we think what other people think about yourself. I think the most important to stand for ourselves, our dream, and to be passionate about what we are doing in a daily basis. Not because I reached to the title, I should quit or stop. What is the next after the title? What is about next from the first degree, second degree, what I'll do for the community and the youth especially. Today, it's my target to educate the youth their right, what they need to do, and especially with the female and the girl. Today, a lot of us, we judge the girl like, especially with the social media, you get faster money, you get faster famous, you get faster everything. This is not the real life. You need to work hard to reach to what you want. You have to gain it right with the work hard. And here where I always share your awareness, educate the youth to have the right community and right life.
I'm speaking about education and being inspirational and things like that. Mentorship obviously comes in quite strong here as well. And being an inspiration to others, you always need someone to look up to, because I suppose if that person can do it, then so can I. And I suppose you've got to have a very strong mental capacity and mindset to achieve this type of thing. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about mentorship and how important that is and what the sort of key elements are. So maybe for people here that are looking for a mentor, what should they be looking for?
Well, when we started the mentorship program, it's always to start looking about as per the age. So we started from exactly 8 to 9 years old. So we grab different age for mentorship and and we try to understand what they need from this program. So for example, for me, I started from 8 to 12, and then from 12 to 18, and then from 20 till 50 and 60 years old. And especially we are mentorship them how to be a leader in their career, and they can be married, how she can continue doing what she do, like if she's an artist or writer or she's a fashion designer and she want to be a leader. And most important, we are increasing the hope inside her. Today when I share my story, or I let my colleague or my friend to share their story on a stage, it's not always about me, it's about how we inspire the other. And today, it's very important to understand with social media and the phone in each person's hand, it's very easy to link to any person in a state or UK or India or any place in the world. Previously, when I started my career, we never had a phone. We never have a social media. I remember we had something called High Five, ICQ. Sorry, I'm a very old person, but today you have every single thing. With 1 click, you can reach to the expert. So this is very important to understand what you wanted from the program. And we started the Women in Aviation non-profit organization in Middle East. We started from 12 years. We started as a group. We are pilots, engineer, and in management, different nationality. And we started with a small hub to inspire the world and share with them. Today, after 12 years, the support of His Highness Ahmed bin Saeed Al Maktoum, Emirates Airline, Airbus, Boeing, many big companies, we give a scholarship, mentorship, we give internship, we do a big conference yearly, a lot of speakers from worldwide, and every single day, year, when we are starting to do the next planning for the next year, we notice that a lot of students today, when I met many of students and say, we graduated, you inspire us, especially who graduated from school, from university, or they found their career, and I was a reason. This is make me hoping to do more mentorship program and educate the student. Today, this year, more than 800 students graduated, and I was teaching them as aeronautical engineering. I'm so proud to see some of them, they are actually in the field, and I wish to find more a student, not only female, as well a male student.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, the advancements you've managed to make, especially with your platform and who you are and things like that, and giving back, essentially, as you mentioned. What are the changes that you'd actually like to see, though? I mean, obviously, we're not quite there yet, but what are the changes you would quite like to see within the different industries from the top, do you think?
I would love to see more awareness, more education, more opportunity for women to be in a leadership stages and position. Because today we find a lot of women reach in a company into a level, senior manager, especially in management side, and they stop. They don't grow up because of the mentality of people that woman, she cannot be VP or she cannot be CEO, she cannot run company and or run a bigger project. Today, I run a huge project by $255 million. And I told them, I'm a leader and I'm having children. I can lead a big project. Just give me the chance. I wish to see the changes that the woman should not work double to show that she's capable to do it. Today we are discussing about the file of equality, inclusion. So I wanted to see it in the field like maintenance, like aviation industry, where is it dominated by male. So hopefully with the many years, by the vision of 2030, we see this changes.
So there's a really interesting question that people answer in very different ways, but can women have it all? And a lot of people say, oh, yes, they can. And then there's the other side that say, yes, they can, but not all at the same time. So what's your take on that?
I always answer them. If she can be in a conference, she can answer a phone in the same time, she can think about her children, she can think about her husband, she can think about what should be the dinner there. She's a multitask. So I think she can be what she can, because this is what God created us, strong. And as I said, beginning, woman born to be a leader. Her capability is so huge. So with people who said, woman, she cannot, then the woman should show them what she can do.
Very much agreed. You are such an inspiration, and we cannot thank you enough for sharing your journey with us here today. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Engineer Suad Al-Shamsi. Thank you. Excellent discussion. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right, I'm going to hand on over to our next panelists. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Laura. What an inspirational discussion that you just had. And thank you so much for being with us today again. We're going to talk now about Generation Z and to what extent are they changing what we know about leaderships. They are rewriting everything we know about leadership. They are challenging norms. And I would love to welcome our speakers to the stage. Ola Odumuli, CEO of Alajo, Nigeria. Kupu, of course, the global head of Zuhu for startups. I would like also to welcome, please, welcome Sirijan, co-founder and CTO of Fuzz UAE, and Shreya, sustainability and climate activist. Thank you so much all for joining us. Please join me at the stage here. Can we give them all a round of applause?
One person's online. Yeah, online. Yes. Hi.
Okay, another great discussion, and I would like also, of course, to thank Shreya for joining us online. Thank you so much. I hope that you can hear us. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sure you can hear us loud and clear. Okay, but we cannot hear you. Can you just unmute? Just because I have to make sure. Yes, that's perfect. Okay, so I would like to start with a question to all of you, and I would love to hear your thoughts around it. So I remember 20 or 30 years ago, young people in Generation Z did not have a great role when it comes to startups. And today, it's a whole different level. So what, in your opinion, guided this environment and motivated Gen Z to play a greater role in startups? I would love to start with you.
Sure. We live in a world where you can make money by talking on podcasts. You can make money by selling tables for reels. You can make money by selling virtual real estate in the metaverse. Try explaining to my parents that I make a living out of talking, literally talking, something that I love doing. For them, it's like, saying, hey, I've built a career or something that I got scolded for in school. I used to, get kicked out of the classroom, and here I am, building a career out of it. So it's wild. The opportunities, of course, the digital age has created these opportunities, and they're full of promise. But at the same time, I feel like there is that challenge in accepting these roles. There is still a lag. Like, sure, we've broken out of traditional barriers, but we're also navigating traditional mindsets. There is an acceptance. It's not just about societies, but also our families, for that matter. I mean, try explaining to your relatives, even from, imagine telling someone 20 years ago that being a TikTok creator, or being an AI whisperer, or being a meme curator, these are legitimate jobs. So it's difficult, I think, because we're doing this in a system that wasn't designed for us. So it's not about rewriting the rules because there are no rules. It's become about rewriting the entire system, for that matter, because you don't need permission anymore. You just need Wi-Fi. You don't
Yes.
need to pitch an idea in a boardroom.
It's feasible for everybody now.
Absolutely, because we've democratized innovation, we've democratized creativity, we've democratized knowledge for that matter. So the entry to barrier is so low. But of course, it comes with those challenges. But the interesting part is that I've seen so many traditional founders do dance on Reels and TikToks now. So I've seen how founders have also known that they need to build a personal brand, they need to be on social media. So I think there's a little bit to and fro, but we need acceptance on a much wider scale. And Gen Z and millennials are doing that pretty well.
That's great. So I would like to hear from you, Kupu, especially that you are the global head of Zoho for Startups. So I'm sure that you have an interesting insight around Gen Z and their participation and their collaboration to the startup landscape.
Absolutely. So I first want to start with how you look at the definition of young, okay? In this world, these interesting times of evolution and how the whole digital landscape has come into play, I still consider myself young. I'm 42 years old, but I'm 42 years young. It's very interesting to see because in this role that I take care of the Zoho for Startups program globally, there's this intersection of culture. You see innovation from great minds across an interesting age demographics, and then this happens at a different period of time where I see myself on a cusp of a generation that has done certain things in a certain way. Like she said, there were unspoken rules, unwritten rules, and now we are looking at a future generation where it's a huge responsibility for people like me who've seen so much of the past, and we've solved Y2K problem, and then Internet Explorer arrived, and then we are looking at the future, we're talking about ChatGPT. So it always feels like we are arriving. We've never arrived before we settle down and we pull together an entire set of people to adjust with this change and catch up with this thing. The next change has arrived. With this context and the role that I play, it's a very responsible statement you make if you don't say things very contextually. So this generation has a very fearless way of approaching innovation and disruption, and they are empowered by the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience that generation from us and the people before, especially women, as we stand tall on the kind of struggles that the past women generations have had, and privileges. You can coin the word with a deeper meaning, a broader meaning for the next generation. With all of this context, I think it's a lot of fearless innovation coming forward, and why not, when we can empower it with our mentoring, we can adjust the speed of innovation with our wisdom, because one thing is to talk about passion and disrupting, but like they say, with the power comes a huge responsibility. To imagine a future much after we are gone, in 40 years down the lane or 50 years down the lane, I think it's a huge responsibility. It's not just courage that comes with innovation. You have to have compassion. You have to have empathy along with this courage, where you're imagining a future for posterity long after you're walking the earth. So it's important to set aside time from each of our responsibilities to inspire the generation, saying with all your privilege and exposure and knowledge, take care of the speed in which you're disrupting things, because actions have consequences.
And I think this is about making them realize that there is value to what they're doing, and this value must be ethical, and it must be adding value not only to this person personally, but on a global level. But I would like to come to you, Srijan, and especially with what Sharia was talking about, is that we have a lot of technology today. We have a lot of social media platforms. We have a lot of connectivity we've never had before in the history of mankind. So to what extent do you think that this innovation and this technology and communication is actually making it easier for Gen Z to do something for themselves, to start their own business and to have a career?
So I remember when I started out, you had 56 kbps as the internet connection. Whenever there was a phone call from my dad, my internet used to go down and I used to fight with my parents. Now you have 300 Mbps. That's orders of magnitude higher. You have a supercomputer in your phones. Like I remember my computer, which was Celeron, right? The stark difference has completely changed the landscape. Kids have access They don't ask anymore. Like back in the day, we used to ask whether we could do something. I have Gen Alpha, not even Gen Z, sending me emails for internships. They want to start working much earlier. They know about ChatGPT. They know what is possible. That they have what I call the TCP IP visa. You go online, start a podcast, bring about change. You go online, work on a crypto firm. I hired someone who had a cat image for most of his social media, but he was an amazing engineer. So we were able to hire people we couldn't even access back then. So the ability to ask questions, the access to information, and just act on it. This is just an amazing generation to be alive. Be it crypto, be it Gen AI, ChatGPT. I know my nieces now use ChatGPT to answer their assignments. Yes. I don't know how good or bad that is, but they have the ability to do that. I didn't even think about it. So they're very smart.
So they have a mind of their own, and they know how to solve problems now, and AI is making it even easier. Yep. So moving to you, Ola, and I would like to ask you, knowing that you actively worked to level the playing field for small businesses, and especially in Nigeria. What unique experiences can you share with us today, and what lessons do you think we have to know about startups and the role of Gen Z when it comes to fostering the innovation around the globe?
Thank you so much for having me. So yes, I've worked with a lot of businesses, and one of the major things that I've found in those businesses is how innovative young people are, especially here in our side of Africa. People bring up, because there are a lot of problems, around. You can already tell. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of problems around. You can already tell that there are major issues that young people are facing. So of course, the lack of job has helped a lot of startups spring up, in Nigeria. And of course, these problems that are springing up are also, young people are also solving these problems and now thinking on it at a global scale. But the barriers that they have faced majorly is, of course, funding, access to funds. It's quite difficult here for younger people to raise funds, due to reputational issues, due to access to the right kind of investor that fits your portfolio, and all of this. And of course, the support system in the country has been quite, we need a lot of support, especially from the government and of course, governments of other nations who can use their own innovation, their own work and bring it here and help us build up these young people, because there are a lot of very young talented entrepreneurs here in Africa, a lot of very young talented startup founders who are doing great work. I mean, ideas spring up all the time, but however, most of them die. Up to 90% of them die in the first 3 years because they can't access funding. They can't, build well enough to be able to reach market fit. So yes, these are some of the barriers that the younger Gen Zs face, and the business that I've worked with, these are the major barriers that they face. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Kupa, I would like to come back to you. To what extent do you think that Gen Z understands the ethical element and impact element, global impact element, whether for their communities, whether globally, of having a startup? To what extent do you think that these elements are integrated into their mentalities when starting a business?
Right, that's a great question, May. In fact, keeping in mind the time, I'm going to restrict my answer to a few points. To shift the spotlight on Gen Z and to ask questions that bring about responses from us, from generation like us, it's a huge responsibility once again. So in terms of ethics, in terms of how the Gen Z look at bringing a startup into life, I think they need a lot of active mentoring. I come from, I'll tell you my viewpoint and the perspective. I'm a microbiologist turned copy editor, turned trainer, turned technologist. And the generation that I worked with, where workplace and loyalty and what you're trying to do, the whole perspective has changed right now to what we're looking at Gen Z or Gen Alpha. But keeping all of this in mind, I think it's up to us, because when you bring a disruption, it's important to understand the history, the culture, the kind of people it's going to impact, not just in terms of economy. There's a lot of psychological, emotional, and futuristic disruption that you're talking about. And how long will we just keep talking about a change that's not going to really factor into the people who are remotely going to get affected, how long it's going to catch up. So it's a very wholesome perspective where I think speed is an important factor along with ethics that we talk about. When one side of the spectrum we talk about disruption, change, ROIs and all of that, and there is an important spectrum where we still talk about catching up. So it's totally up to the generation before that to influence the Gen Z or the Gen Alpha to think about ethics. Because nobody, take ChatGPT for example, nobody knew that it's going to arrive. Still, we are still figuring out the various ramifications of who's feeding these machines about artificial intelligence, who's leading. So we're still, I would say, in a very rudimentary stage, like Dr. Soundarya Rajesh talked about and various others, to eliminate bias, to talk about ethics in a most acceptable manner, not just a decided few who write these rules and regulations. So it's a long way to go.
And Shreya, I think that when I look at social media platforms, this generation is really into discussing these topics. Yeah. To what extent do you see it? I mean, with your podcast and with your interaction with this generation, to what extent do you see that this is something they prioritize?
Social media?
No, I mean, talking about the impact in an ethical and the social impact of what they're doing.
Yeah, I think you can see social media as either a megaphone for amplifying what we do and current social issues, but it's also a double-edged sword at the same time. There's so many movements that have gained traction in social media. You're talking about climate crisis, you're talking about human rights issues. There's so much out there. So sure, it's helped us build awareness, it's helped us build communities, it's helped us mobilize action. But at the same time, people like us who are in the social justice movement, we have massive empathy fatigue. There's so many things that we care about and they're so intersectional. Me, for example, like I started off in the gender equity space, then I moved on to sustainability, and there's so many dimensions even within that. And then to talk about human rights, I'm very vocal about the genocide that's happening at the moment. I also care about the animal rights movements. Of course, there are intersecting issues and injustices and oppression happening at the same time, but it's helped us in a way, but it's also not, because we're trying to stay away from burnout and paralysis. But the privilege that it's given me and the next gen is I get to decide what I get to spend my energy on. I don't need to ask like, hey, does profit come before impact? I get to do both at the same time. I get to ask myself, what are my values? What do I prioritize? Where do my ethics lie? And can I build a business out of that? And technology has given me the privilege to do that. So I get to ask really different questions than what my parents did and what my dad did. It doesn't come out of necessity, it comes out of intention.
And I think it's beautiful that we get to hear fresh views about these topics, views that are new to us, as I consider myself an older generation. So let me ask you both, Srijan and Ola, being recognized on Forbes Africa's under 30 list is a significant achievement. So to what extent did that open doors for change, please?
So I think, firstly, it is a very stark reminder of how old I am. So that's the funny part. But it's more of a reflection of what you've done than what you're going to do. So it's a reflection of the fact that you've built a business. You get the Forbes 30 under 30 because you've achieved something to that stage. I tend to take it lightly. There is much more responsibility in what I'm building as a business. I think both of you have already mentioned how you need to be ethical, how you need to get impact. One of our major things is making sure that we can make payments available for everyone. That's one of the missions of Fuse. So it does open doors. It makes it easy to talk to investors. They do give you some bit of ownership and responsibility. They take you seriously. But sometimes it's a problem when you're young. I think over to Ola.
That's beautiful. Ola, I would like to hear your thoughts on the topic as well.
Oh, yes, being on Forbes 30 under 30 was quite inspirational for us, or for me, because at the time when I got it, I come from a very small or a very rural part of Nigeria. And I grew up there, and it's like suburban, not rural, but suburban, not urban either, you understand? And I was just persistent, and I kept working. I kept, doing what I could do, trying to inspire the younger people around me. So getting on Forbes 30 Under 30 was such an inspiration to so many young people around me at the time, because it helped them see that no matter where you come from, you can actually aspire and you can do well enough for you to be recognized. And at the time, Forbes had moved from choosing 120 people per year to choosing just 30 per year in Africa. There was so much more inspirational that younger people wanted to, actually look up to awards like this or recognitions like this and build better products. And of course, this opened up a lot of opportunities, speaking engagements, opportunities, funding opportunities, and of course, innovation, came in. So yes, it was quite significant for me that I got into Forbes Under 30 Under 30, even though there's also a downside to it because people actually expect much more from you. There's much more pressure, you understand, but I just tend to focus on the positive and just, build as I grow. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us online, and keep inspiring and keep aiming for value creation. And thank you for my speakers as well here for joining us at IGF this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So coming up next, we're going to take lessons from the field, cultivating the future of Indian sports. I would love to welcome the moderator, Monisha, to introduce this panel and the speakers, please.
Welcome to Dream Set Go, your destination for the most exclusive sporting experiences from the House of Dream Sports. Watching your favorite game from the stands feels great. But for some, great isn't good enough. They want something exclusive. Like cheering for your favorite team is exciting. But to be invited to their practice sessions? Now that's exclusive. To watch a big match from the boardroom is fun. But to hold a board meeting at the venue before the match, now that's exclusive. When your favorite driver wins the race, it's epic. But to watch the race from the paddock, now that's exclusive. To witness India's glory at the Olympics is unforgettable. But to sit alongside a champion,
now that's exclusive.
And imagine traveling to your dream experiences like this. Exclusive, right? Get the most extraordinary sporting experiences with Dream Set Go. Book your tickets hassle-free and experience the exclusive.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call my first panelist, Anurag Dahiya, who's the Chief Commercial Officer of ICC. Okay. Mr. Mahesh Bhupati, former Indian athlete, legend of India, and director at SG Sports. Hi, Mahesh. And the head coach of Hyderabad Tufans, Pasha Gateman. Anurag, I'll start with you. ICC has played a tremendous role in where cricket is today. Cricket is a religion in India. It's done phenomenally well, even when it comes to leagues and teams. What inspiration do you think, outside of cricket, other sports in India, leagues that are coming up within badminton, within kabaddi, within hockey, can draw from cricket to increase fan engagement and to increase and improve sports tourism within India?
Yes, thanks. Firstly, it's a pleasure to be here. Now, I think we find ourselves in a very fortunate position as cricket. As you said, it's a religion in South Asia. And so for us, it's sometimes an easier job than other sports. But I can just talk to a few of the things that we do, which I feel help cricket maintain its position in South Asia, as well as help us grow as we're trying to in various parts of the world. And for us, it begins with having a fan-centric approach to everything we do. It's about customizing everything that we do to the fans whom we want to understand, engage with, and bring them into the sport wherever it might be happening, whether it's at the global level or at a league or bilateral cricket. With our events, what we try to do, therefore, is to adopt a flavor of wherever we are. So you will have seen over the last 3 years, we were in India for the ODI World Cup, for example, last year, and our entire branding, communication, marketing was all about India and an Indian event. Switched to the T20 World Cup, which happened in US and West Indies, and it was a completely different flavor. It brought out the excitement of being in New York, the Big Apple, being in the Caribbean, and the role that cricket plays in life there, and so on. So it's about, for us, always looking at who's hosting us, adapting to that, and then presenting our sport in the best picture possible. You talked about tourism, and for us, each of these is a big occasion, which can amplify the local marketing campaigns that a lot of the local governments or tourism bodies might be investing in. So we do work with them also. And for example, in the Caribbean, we were featuring all the venues that we were in, beautiful places, whether it was with our talent going out and introducing the surroundings with cricket as the means for talking about it. So there is a bit of a partnership we strike with the local governments and local authorities in working that. We just did a last-minute thing, frankly, in the UAE. As you would have seen, the T20 World Cup for women was to be in Bangladesh. Events overtook us there. We couldn't be there, and we were here, again, working with the local authorities here, gave it a very UAE flavor to the whole event, even though it was at a short notice. I think that's really important, keeping the fan at the center of it, keeping the sport above all, and then giving it a local flavor. I think that's really the key thing.
Great, that's quite insightful. Mahesh, big fan. Thank you for everything you've done for the country. In order for India to host more tournaments, more global tournaments, right? Like we see the trends in Middle East, we see the trends in Southeast Asia. A lot of non-cricket tournaments are being held, and they've been held pretty successfully. For us to hold more tournaments within India, what do you think needs to change, or what do we need to do more?
So I think the trend of, as you said, leagues has really caught on in India. I think literally every sport has a league or has a league in incubation today. I think starting leagues is not the challenge. I think sustaining them is the main challenge. And from a sustenance perspective, I think it's very important to have stars, right? Indian stars, especially if it's an Indian league. I think that's why, like Anurag said, cricket's a religion in India. It's not the 11 stars. We have 50 to 60 superstars when it comes to cricket. So I think each league needs to have a few tentpoles as stars. And I think that drives viewership drives sponsors drives broadcast drives the ecosystem. So yeah, I think that's the critical aspect to it. That's why, unfortunately, over the last few years, some of the leagues have, died a slow death. But, if you don't have stars to propel a league, I think it's a big challenge.
And I think my next question around that is, in order for us to create more stars like yourself, there needs to be a certain change in terms of more talent coming out across different sports within India. What more can we do?
So we are so far behind the 8 ball on what we should be doing. That's a long discussion. countries like Japan, South Korea, China dominate world sports. So in my opinion, with the demographic we have, there is no reason that we shouldn't be doing it. But having said that, there needs to be a very bottom-up system like there is in Indian cricket. So Indian cricket is privately run. They do it beautifully from the under 14 all the way to the men's and women's level, and that is why they have incredible depth. And we don't have that system in any sport because every sport is, none of the other sports are privately run. So they all have, bureaucrats at the helm who don't understand sport. So we've got bigger problems across Indian sport. I think a few corporates are trying to take the bull by the horns, like a JSW, Olympic Gold Quest, Reliance. But, if we really want to be a game changer when it comes to competing in the medals tally at the Olympics, I think there's a lot that needs to be done.
Pasha, welcome. Can you tell us a little more about Hyderabad Tufans, the hockey league that's starting in India, and the role that you're going to play?
And sorry?
And the role that you're going to play.
And the role is I'm the coach, so I'll just coach the team. Thank you very much for having me here, by the way. The Hockey India League is a concept that took place, the last edition took place a long while ago, and they've given it new life, and they're trying to showcase hockey and take hockey to the next level in India. What we've seen in the previous Olympics, in the last two Olympics, is that India, after having their former success back in the past, they're back at the world stage now. They've not just incidentally taken a bronze medal, but in the last Olympics they've been back again, played an amazing semi-final that, fortunately for me, they didn't win. But in the end, they showcased themselves being there at the world-class level. The Hockey India League is built to make sure that the Indian athletes can take their next steps. So what they're trying to do with that league is get foreign players, select amount of foreign players, world-class talents, to come and play in these Indian franchises. The franchise that I'm with, the Hyderabad Tufans, is one that operates from Hyderabad, of course, and that tries to build a very long-term success. So tries to see how can we get foreign international players and Indian national stars, upcoming stars, and build a new team culture so that they can take the next step, and to make sure that little bit that's lacking in order to get the gold medals and structurally grab them, that we can fill those gaps.
You think, how important is it for huge investment to come in building infrastructure at a grassroots level and then at building great stadiums within India to promote the other sports and to ensure that it develops a very strong local followership and it increases fan engagement and young athletes who want to play the sport or watch the sport and support the sport, right? So what role do you think sponsorships, investment within the country outside of cricket is going to play for it to shape the next decade, and ensure that we get more talent that participates for the country at an Olympics level?
From my side, at least, what I think is that the grassroots levels, it's not only building the stars of the futures, but it's also building the communities. And the way that I perceive sports and being brought up in the European system, it's all about communities. And if you start the grassroots levels, you get this whole community around it. Of course, we're talking about a top level, and we're talking about a certain percentage of players that actually can make a career out of their sports. But you want it to have a bigger impact in your whole society, in your community. At the end, I think that's what the investments, and that's what is really interesting for the investors and the investments as well, to say we're trying to build communities with each other, and not just the platforms for sports itself, but the bigger picture in it all.
Anurag, in order for all the other leagues to grow at a certain level within the country, they're going to need a lot of support from international sporting bodies, right? Can you help us draw some inspirations in terms of how ICC's played a role in different countries in promoting the sport and then probably leading to the leagues doing better, and how other sports can draw some inspiration from that?
Yeah, from our perspective, what we are focused on when it comes to non-core markets is using our resources to get grassroots cricket going. And what we've done is to identify whatever the barriers are, and all our effort is to remove them. So for example, one of the barriers we saw with communities where cricket gets introduced is people are scared of injuries, because you're playing a pretty scary game. You have a very hard ball rushing at you. Yes, you can get injured, So just recognizing that, we've just come up with a totally new concept, which is called Creo, which is softball cricket. You can play it with a plastic kit. You can play it on any surface. You can make up your rules almost. And what you're doing with that is to break down barriers in terms of making it more accessible, more easy to play for people with no fear of injuries. And that's something that's taken off quite well throughout the world. And we've got 108 members. I would say probably about 20 of them have a serious local program running. The next 80 really need this kind of an intervention. The other thing which we've been doing is to take our events to newer territories as well. I talked about the US. The focus there again was to introduce that market to cricket, get people a little bit more interested in and get a little bit of that curiosity going. Just go out and search for what cricket means, and then feeding that curiosity with content, right? So we worked a lot with social media, and we had 1 trillion minutes during the World Cup of social media consumption. And that's because not all of those trillion minutes are coming through on the field action. There's a lot of surround sound that is going on. And I think that's really the sweet spot you want. You want people to have the ability to experience the sport, have exposure for the sport where they can experience it at the highest level, and then make it accessible enough, where they are able to understand what's going on without really having any major stakes in it. So it's a combination of those three things. And then once countries start getting to a certain level, then you get into high performance interventions, better coaching, investment in facilities, and so on.
Yeah. 2036, India is aspiring to hold the Olympics. From now till then, I'd like to kind of open this to all three of you all. What are the main things that we need to work on as a country to ensure that we can host it successfully and India can have an amazing participation and hopefully a great result at the end of the Olympics?
Maybe I can kick that off. No, that's a very exciting prospect, especially for our sport, because we've just re-entered the Olympics after a 100-year absence. And we will be there in LA 28, and quite likely that Brisbane, which is the next in 32, although not yet a done deal, quite likely cricket will be there. So yeah, we are very excited. If 36 is in India, that means cricket will continue to be there. What can the country do to present itself as a good host? I think there are lots of opportunities between now and the decision-making time. There are global events coming through to India. It's really about using them in the best way possible. I think we, speaking as an Indian myself, I think we sometimes miss the opportunity when it comes to major sporting events. We don't market it well enough. We don't give people, overseas travelers, the opportunity to come through and experience these events. I think if we can make it easier for fans to travel, whether it is through easier visa processes, dedicated processes like the Caribbean, for example, ran for our World Cup, I think those kind of little things can make a big difference to traveling fans who are planning travel to the host country. So I think if we can use the next few years when we are hosting international competitions in India to really show ourselves in the best, I don't know, Nish, what do you think?
For me, from an athlete's perspective, see, when you're hosting the Olympics, you get a wild card into all the events, right? So there's not much qualifying to worry about. So you're hosting the Olympics, you want to have a very high finish, top 10, ideally. We've got 12 years to build on that. So it's not just about building infrastructure or building systems. I think we need to, as a country, be relevant when it comes to finishing high on the table. And I think there needs to be a lot of infrastructure pushing athletes over the next 10 years to reach their peak at that system.
Definitely. Yeah, I think for my addition, and of course I'm a specialist in the hockey area, is to say that India opens the doors and it shows people and it hosts a lot of events. I think it could also be very beneficial to to bring India to the rest of the world. And not only to invite the rest of the world to India, but for example, try to see if you can get athletes to go over and go abroad for 1 or 2 years and experience a different setting and a different culture and bring that back to India. So not to have them there in that setup forever, but just to go and experience, sniff on it, see like, okay, what are the elements that we can actually learn from it and bring them back? Because in the end, we're talking about individual athletes, stories that you want to expand and expand. And I think that towards the Olympics, whether it be 36 or maybe the additions afterwards, I think it's really good to create these stories, and these individual athletes need to have different experiences, come back, and then showcase that.
Great. Thank you so much, all three of you. It's been an amazing opportunity to have a chat with you all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And Pasha, best of luck for the league.
Hello again. So another interesting session, and historically, of course, the beauty and luxury sectors have been dominated by Western standards, but the boom of the non-Western beauty entrepreneurs has turned the industry on its head. Today, this is what we're going to be discussing with the founder of Fable and Mane, Akash Mehta, on remaking the face of luxury industry and combining heritage and innovation in this industry. Akash, please join me on the stage.
Thank you so much.
So before we start, let's do something fun?
Yeah, let's do something fun.
Okay, let me just put my papers
you guys
away.
have been sitting for a while, so we're going to do big tiger, little tiger. So can everyone just stand up for one second?
Please, everyone. We've been sitting for quite some time
Yeah.
now, so let's just move.
So when I say big tiger, you're going to go rah. When I say little tiger, you're going to go rah. You ready? Okay.
Ready?
Go. Big tiger. Rah. Big tiger. Rah. Little tiger. Little tiger, rah, faster. Big tiger, little tiger, little tiger. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
We're good. Thank you so much. Please have a seat.
Thank you. I clearly love tigers.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to bring the energy back.
Yeah, we've got to bring the energy up, so it's perfect.
Okay, so Fable and Mane, and of course, this brand is known for blending Indian beauty rituals with modern luxury. So what inspired you to have this mix and to create Fable and Mane?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I have worked in the beauty industry for quite a few years. I was an engineer before that, but we're not going to talk about that. And working in corporate beauty, so I worked for Estee Lauder companies and then LVMH's Dior. I often felt like I didn't feel our culture, the South Asian, heritage was really championed. And there were quite a few moments, I won't mention specifics, but there was some racism, there was some kind of forgottenness of our kind of, our pride of our own heritage. And instead of running to HR and saying, hey, this is not okay, I thought we need to have more brands out there that can inspire these leaders that actually we can exist in beauty. I mean, I don't know when the last time anyone has seen like a South Asian model on a big billboard of a beauty campaign in the Western world, right? So I wanted to create a brand that celebrated our culture And Fable and Mane, we launched in April 2020, and we became the first Ayurvedic brand at Sephora, and the first South Asian hair brand at Sephora. And now there's many more, which is really exciting. So yeah, that was a real catalyst.
I think it's fair to say that your engineering degree helped you engineer beauty
I
in the
think
years
so.
to come. So it was helpful.
I have to give credit. It definitely was helpful. But I think the main also reason is, like, you have to have a purpose beyond just creating something. Growing up.
Follow what you love, follow your passion.
Exactly.
So whenever we talk about cultural heritage and incorporating cultural heritage into branding or products or marketing, there is always the risk of, having touched stereotypes and cultural stereotypes. So how do you deal with this challenge, with these issues around stereotypes when you have so much cultural factors integrated in your marketing themes and your branding?
That's a great question. I think for us, it's about first honoring the heritage and doing research. So education is the most important thing. So we spend a lot of time teaching ourselves and just learning about why, where we got all this inspiration from. Ayurveda, for those who don't know, it's a 4,000-year-old science. This is something that's been passed down by generations, but it's evolving. So we also have to think about what is the new generation's opinion and version of Ayurveda, and we want Fable and Mane to be a part of it. So we definitely kind of always give homage to our roots, and we kind of do a lot of kind of content based on kind of going back to India, learning from our elders, and unfortunately my grandmas are not around. It's one of the reasons why we started the brand, was inspired by my grandma. So when she passed away, we created the brand in honor of her. So it's really about capturing the essence of India and keeping it for a legacy to continue.
So ethical sourcing is a topic that comes on and off in several headlines around the globe with companies that deal with consumers or that mostly are in retail sector. So to what extent this is something that you take into consideration in the manufacturing and operational process of Fable and Mane?
Yeah, ethical sourcing is paramount of importance. It's actually the side of the business, our kind of production operations. It's the most expensive side for us because we've invested so heavily from day one. So that involved hiring the best, so working with the right consultants and leaders in those spaces, because it is a journey. We don't know it all. I've learned so much by creating the brand. I definitely knew I wanted to honor our roots, so kind of using a lot of the Ayurvedic ingredients. We wanted to make sure we give back to our homeland, and we source ethically from India a lot of our ingredients. But we also make sure that we are always up to date with the recent trends and kind of innovation when it comes to the supply chain. So a lot of work, sleepless nights often, but it is something that excites me the most, because ultimately when you create a brand, let's be honest, it's a waste. There are products out there, there's packaging. We can only do the best we can, and making sure that this brand really leaves a positive impact on the planet, not a negative one.
So whenever I walk into a beauty shop or places that sells makeup and beauty products like Sephora or others, there's always this section of Asian beauty products, and when each and every one of them promise you the best things in the world and the best skin and anti-aging and all of that. So when you look at what is happening globally when it comes to beauty trends, and at the same time you want to also stay rooted to your culture and to what Fable and Mane is really about. How do you balance that? I mean, what's happening globally with beauty trends, and at the same time uplift, staying rooted when it comes to what Fable and Mane is about. So how do you keep that balance?
It's a great question, and I have a very simple answer. I kind of bring it back to like video games, and that sounds very odd, right? But I've created Fable and Mane like a video game. So everyone touching our brand, our consumers, our employees, they need to know the land that we are playing in. So for us, it's quite simple. It's the land of India. So for us, everything has to feel authentic to the place that we've created. If we're doing an event, it's natural. I'm going to be serving Indian food, not Japanese food, for example, right? So you have to think about, these are your citizens that are coming on. They could be visitors for a day. They could be residents, like my employees. They got to feel that they're playing a true, authentic version of our game. because that's what business is at the end of the day. And that helps us have a little bit of sense of rootedness, so we don't go into different tangents. So I encourage everyone in their business to think of it like, what is your land, your kingdom that you guys are creating? It's very important.
So this is beautiful. So I would like to ask you a question that I think many ladies here would love to hear from you. Do you experiment with traditional hair rituals? I mean, I know my grandma and her grandma. Everybody has a certain secret recipe for the perfect hair and shiny roots. And so, to what extent do you experiment with traditional rituals and you maybe add a little bit of spices on top before you come up with the perfect product?
I mean, all the time. Our product development is all based on Ayurvedic innovation. So that means trying to find these, potentially for the Western world, abnormal ingredients, but for us in our culture, these are things that we've been eating or using in our rituals for a long time. So for example, onion juice is incredible for hair growth. Fun fact, if you don't believe it, ask Cardi B. Cardi B's secret to her beautiful hair is onion water as a rinse. So when we looked at onion, we thought, how can we bring that to our new product? So our recent volumizing range is all full of onion and apple, which seems quite odd. When I was telling our Sephora merchants, they were like, onion? I was like, trust me, onion is great. There's also, like, for example, if people have issues with like preventing grayness, you could use things like hibiscus, dried it into a paste. It's really amazing for premature graying and stuff. And also another one of my favorites is fenugreek. Soak it and then again use that paste. It just really helps to strengthen the follicles, but also it helps with dandruff. So, I mean, there are so many, which is why like sometimes it's like, instead of going to a kid's shop, I go to my nanny's pantry and there's like so many ingredients we can play with. Not all of them work, not all of them smell good, not all of them feel good, but it's fun to experiment.
So where do you see Fable in Maine in the 10 years to come?
So I'll be honest, the reason why we did the tiger exercise and I wear a tiger, I am obsessed with animals. My whole thing is I don't really, like my dream isn't to create the largest beauty brands in the world. My dream is to help the wildlife that's on this planet. So ultimately, that's what me and my sister said from like 3 years old, 4 years old, the minute we could speak. So I'm using ventures like businesses as a catalyst to make the funds to put into our own fund. So I have the Fable Fund, like Fable in Maine, but Fable Fund. That's helping big cats, but eventually we want to have other pillars of other kind of different species. And eventually when we exit the business, I want majority of the sale to go to the fund, and I want to keep on building ventures because I don't want to be a fund that goes knocking on people's doors, fundraising. I think we need to really link a little bit the gap between entrepreneurship, business, and actual giving back, not this like 1%, 2%, 3%. I'm thinking like 80% because why not? So I think that's what I hope to see is, while the brand will be bigger, I hope our wildlife mission will be even bigger.
So one of the most interesting topics that was discussed during IGF this year is sustainability.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. How do you integrate sustainability into your operations, especially that now many consumers around the globe are really becoming, they have a certain level of a commitment to the climate. So what do you do for consumers when it comes to adhering to sustainability goals?
First, transparency. I think that's the most important, is making sure we are as transparent as possible. We get a lot of inbound questions every day that we're answering all the time about our sustainability agendas and goals. We also, from that, being transparent means a lot of education because we also need to learn a lot. So we held a lot of accountability to all our partners, our supply chain partners, our retail partners, our marketing partners, to see how we can do better together because it's a collective mission. We are like on our B Corp journey. You know, we have other ventures out there that can give you those seals of approval, which helps because sometimes consumers like seeing those seals that show in a very simple form. But we also try to go further. So I'm on a board of a lot of different councils, like the British Beauty Council. We're looking at like introducing potentially like traffic light systems into beauty packaging. You know, like how you have in food, red, yellow, green. Like how can you make it so simple? Because we live in a 3-second ephemeral world. Consumers don't have time to really research, go on your website. We need to build and really bring sustainability at the forefront, but make it accessible and easy. So that's what I'm trying to do here.
Another topic that was discussed globally during 2024 is the new age of AI.
Yes.
And what does it mean for different industries? In your opinion, is there any way, this is a personal question, okay, let's keep it at that. So to what extent do you think that AI will make us look younger as we age?
Ooh, well, I have a slight issue with
this
that.
This is what all the ladies want to answer for. So I'm going to ask you I'm going to ask it on behalf of all of you.
I personally don't think looking younger, I think aging is beautiful. I just want to really reiterate that. Also, as someone who looks like a baby, I want to age, so I always tell people I'm older than I am. But I would say AI definitely is an enabler for anyone's kind of goals. So if someone's goal is to use AI to help them, you know, maybe advance technologies or advance innovation, that's something we're looking at. We can't really speak about like ageism because, or like youth, because we're more focused on the hair. But I will say like we are looking at AI solutions to help drive innovations, drive costs down, and also just, again, with that transparency, help us drive forward Ayurveda, because 4,000 years ago, I mean, even 10 years ago, there was no AI in Ayurveda. Yes. So we're trying to bring that in a bit.
So another question I'm sure that many ladies here would like to ask you, since you experiment a lot with Fable and Main, and you try all different recipes and chemical compounds, what is the number one chemical compound or ingredient, whether natural or chemically produced, that you consider as anti-aging?
Ooh, again, I would say anti-aging from hair. I'm going to always talk about hair because I'm not skilled and trained to talk about skin. I wish one day I'll be trained in that. But ashwagandha is an incredible ingredient also for skin and for hair that really helps strengthen. If you actually look at the Sanskrit word, like ashwagandha means strength of a horse, like a stallion.
Ah, okay.
So this is a strengthening ingredient or root. Put it in your protein shakes. Put it in your hair oils. That's what we have in our
I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, ashwagandha is going to be your best friend.
This is the expert talking, so I'm just going to take your advice for it. Thank you so much, Akash, for being with us today, Mr. Akash. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this very interesting panel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Fascinating panel there. And yes, I took my ashwagandha today, actually. Very rather proud of myself. Good to know it's so brilliant for you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, time now to reimagine travel and tourism. And as travel habits continue to evolve, we find ourselves at a crossroads. On one side, there's a growing demand for meaningful escapes, disconnecting from the digital world. And on the other, we have the rise of blending work and travel together. So, time now to find out how companies are innovating to cater to new traveler demands. So, let's join the experts. Please give a very warm welcome to Chitra Gurnani Daga, who is the founder of Thrillerphilia. A very warm welcome to Chitra. Great to have you here. And Vikramjit Lumba is the director of PwC, and he is our second panelist for our session. Wonderful to have you both here. Yes, please do take a seat here. We'll stick to the middle here of the stage. Brilliant to have you both here, reimagining travel and tourism and some of the habits that we're seeing at the moment. Chitra, why don't you start us off with a general landscape overview of some of the travel trends and habits that you're seeing over in India in particular?
Working? Yeah. Thank you. Travel has changed over the last decade big time. Back in 2011, when we started, we were selling activities and experiences to Indian customers online. And at that point of time, there weren't transactions happening. Indians were buying books on Flipkart. Indians just started booking some taxis on Taxi for Sure and Ola at that point of time. Uber did not come into the market yet. And Amazon was also selling books only at that point of time. So we started with travel in India in those days with no transactions happening. Kept pivoting the model, but today, 10 years from then, the same Indian consumer has evolved so much, and he and she is coming on the platform and buying activities and experiences standalone. When I say standalone, it means a hot air balloon ride in Jaipur. It could be a sightseeing tour of the city of Goa. It could be the entrance ticket to Burj Khalifa. All of this is being booked online in India. So that's one change that has happened. The other very important change that I've seen in the Indian customer is post-COVID, immersive experiences have come along. People are not booking simple sightseeing tours. So the traditional Indian is known to cover more destinations in less days. So the typical European holiday that an Indian goes to, the first European holiday, would cover 7 countries at least.
Wow.
Touch and go, touch and go, touch and go. So, and that's how they travel, right? But that's changing. We get complaints for those tours. We've stopped those tours. We're saying, let's do 3 countries, but let's spend time at a country, because that's what the traveler wants now. So the same Indian customer has evolved and is saying, I want immersive experiences. Our Ladakh tours have half a day in the monastery where the customers sit and do meditation with the monks. And it's a 30-minute added experience, because that's the demand today. We take them out for immersive lunches in villages with the locals. So Rajasthan is known for Lal Mas. Now there is a curated culinary experience created for our guests where we take them, and in the olden age chulas made of coal and mud, the cooking is done in front of them and then they enjoy the meal there. So there's a lot more immersive experiences that has come out. A third trend that I've seen is with the Gen Z travelers and the millennial travelers. These are the people who are looking to explore more now. So honestly, a decade ago, it's okay, they would just do trekking and camping and that's done. But today, they want to do a lot more. They want to explore a lot more. They want to try out every other activity, every other thing that is possible. So the younger generation has become a lot more exploratory in nature, over and above being adventurous. So I think these were the 3 typical trends that I've seen over the last decade change for the Indian customer.
Really interesting, especially these immersive experiences where you really feel the essence of someone else's culture and really be in the mix of it. I think that's absolutely incredible and nice to hear that those are very much on the rise as well. Vikramjit, over to you. Now, obviously you're PwC, give us your insights, your latest insights and some of the trends that is maybe happening on even a global scale, and maybe you can hone in on the region a little bit here as well.
Sure, certainly. So, tourism, as we all know, it's a big contributor to the GDP, to the economy, to employment and job creation. There are certain destinations within the Middle East, such as Dubai, that have always been very proactive in terms of promoting tourism, bringing in tourists and sort of promoting themselves as a destination. I think there are Saudi, for example, if you see, is really trying to diversify the economy, do various projects across different types of tourism. So, certain projects like NEOM, or if you look at, Alula, that focuses on heritage tourism. If you look at Qiddiya, for example, that looks at sports and adventure. The typical resort, sun and sand experience in the Red Sea. So I think, Saudi is coming a long way. Oman, as we all know, those of us who've traveled to Oman is beautiful. I think it's an amazing destination. They've been quite particularly, sort of focused in terms of what kind of tourists that they want. They probably need to, maybe open up a little more to try and promote tourism. So yeah, I mean, I personally believe in this region, particularly as it diversifies away from oil. Qatar, for example, is another, is trying to promote tourism. I think the more they diversify from, oil and gas, one of the key sectors that is going to fill that, that economy or that revenue gap is going to come from tourism.
And sustainability, that aspect, I want to touch on a little bit later as well. But really interesting, you spoke about Saudi and how that's opened up, because it's got very much, areas that have never been touched before. So for a traveller, a global traveller, it's obviously quite an appealing place. But we're going to talk about heritage a little bit later on as well. But I just wanted to quickly talk about generative AI and the sort of appeal of this as well, and how that's very much changing the industry as a whole. It's very much becoming a serious competitor to traditional travel websites, which is normally, what everyone does is, go straight onto the website. But Gen AI, tell us a little bit more about how that's really mixing things up.
I think that's adding a lot of value to the ecosystem. Couple of years ago, what happened with data? That's happening with AI today. When data came in the story, everybody was like, there's so much data about the consumer that we have, right? But how do we use that data? Can I make sense of that data and do a lot of personalization? So let's say you love large swimming pools every time you travel because your kids like swimming. And that's a data insight which is stored in my system, right? Now, how do I use this for personalization? Something very similar is happening now on the lines of AI, where all this data, all these insights are being utilized, and AI is taking over the entire process of itinerary planning. So you really don't need to now talk to an expert and ask him that give me a suggestion, how do I plan my itinerary? And now this expert is going to sit and take a whole day to create an itinerary, talk to a supplier, get some prices and do the entire processing and get back to you after 2 days, and then you suggest him 3 changes and he takes another 2 days, right? All that is now saved. With generative AI coming in, so much data in place, data analysis in place, and AI on top of it, it's changing the way things can be booked, things can be accessed, the way I can go to the website and plan my own itinerary. I mean, that's how every other travel platform will be evolving very soon.
Are you seeing the same thing as well? And how is the dynamic shifting?
Yeah, I mean, look, technology for the younger generation, they're far more comfortable with it, yeah, in terms of its usage. Personally, me, myself, or maybe certain people of in my age are sort of prefer to get the actual experience. The common thread, be it in any generation, the point is whatever be the aspect of tourism, whether it's culture, whether it's heritage, whether it's food, or any other experience that a destination has to offer, regardless of age, everybody wants to experience it. It's just how they do it which is different. I think with the advent and the growth of these technologies, and of course, the younger generation, as the new generation comes up, they're far more comfortable sort of handling technology than people like me, right? So there will definitely be a shift. It really remains to be seen, how countries or destinations are able to promote themselves, because at the end of the day, it is an employment generator. It is a contributor to the GDP. Would they focus on that as a source of revenue, or would they really want to welcome people and and really have that real life experience? That only time will tell.
I'd be interested to hear, what the different type of traveller that's emerging. I mean, in my introduction, I very much spoke about, the person that wants, a holiday/work trip. And then there's the other person who wants a complete digital detox. People who just want to sort of break free of all types of technology. So in terms of the different type of traveller that's emerging, I think also from COVID, we've got very environmentally conscious travellers now as well. Are you seeing those 3 different sides picking up as well?
Absolutely. I think sustainability is going to be the next thing in travel. Travelers are becoming conscious. See, at the end of it, to a consumer, what finally matters is the value that he gets in the money that he spends, right? Being environmental conscious is one side of me as a traveler, right? But at the end, when I pay, I see what value I get. Now, this is where the policies, the governments can play a major role in actually promoting sustainable practices. To give you an example, the Machu Picchu in Peru has a very fragile ecosystem. And if you look at it, the number of travelers that come there, the visitors that come there, could be very damaging to the ecosystem. But the way they have used technology for sustainability, with drones and surveillance technology, actually tracking real-time visitor movement. They have heat maps of where visitors are overcrowding, and using all of that, they're able to control the visitor flow, strict regulations of number of visitors who can enter the place, policies that they have to follow. the eco-friendly, the subsidies that they have on eco-friendly accommodations for the visitors. All these things actually make it all the more sustainable. And that kind of thing is going to be the next big thing in travel.
Really interesting because, I mean, we were speaking earlier about heritage tourism and different sort of areas when it comes to outweighing the potential harm as opposed to the economic benefits of tourism. And we've seen quite a lot of backlash, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's especially over this summer, especially in European cities. A lot of these local communities have very much been lashing out. They're fed up of all these tourists. But, you know, they're essential to these local economies. So how do we find a balance with that?
You see, so, yeah, we just talked about that a little while ago. So, sustainability in tourism is an absolute must. And I think, you know, as time grows and you know, even among the younger generation, they're far more conscious about sustainability and across, you know, generally their life and all their practices. So it is definitely something that is going to flow over to tourism as well. The important thing, you know, what I want to say here is finding that balance between, you know, economic benefits and sort of, you know, not overstepping into communities. I think a lot of the initiative and the effort and you know, control over tourism aspects should really be left to local communities, because at the end of the day, you know, whether it's employment opportunities, it is opportunities to showcase their own culture and heritage, and you know, deriving some economic benefit out of it versus, you know, whatever the consequences of over tourism can be. You know, it's for them to benefit and it's for them to sort of bear the consequences. A lot of times, you know, if you look at you know, stakeholders broadly, if you look at government, if you look at, you know, locals or local communities, and if you look at you know, maybe some developers you know, who sort of benefit from it, generally you find a very sort of a top-down approach, governments leading the way in this. I think going forward, probably just to, you know, find the right balance is to let you know, a sort of a bottom-up approach come up, where you know, local communities and the private sector really are the participants and how they interact with each other, maybe with a little bit of you know, with the government playing as sort of a bridge between the, you know, the various parties.
I mean, it definitely needs to be a coordinated approach, if not, I suppose, top down, because that's the only way, because I suppose it's not a tourist's fault if they go to an overcrowded place, they're just there to sort of see the sights, and then there's backlash from, you know, the local community, but you can understand their upset at the same time, sort of thing. So do you think that there is a risk as well of over-modernizing cultural and heritage tourism, really losing maybe the essence of that cultural experience? Is that a worry?
See, that certainly is a worry, no doubt about it. But I think there is an experience for everyone. There are people who still love the traditional ryokan experience in Japan. I mean, no matter how much tech and AI I bring into it, you cannot recreate that experience. The feel that they have when they get into that traditional guest house of Japanese, and they get into the onsen, which is a bath built in nature, with hot spring water into it. Then they sit down for a tea ceremony, and then they have the kayasaki meal, which is prepared from the local ingredients. Now, as I speak about this experience, the only thing is we can imagine ourselves being there and doing it, feeling it, right? So that can't be replaced, for sure. A replacement is not possible, but yes, over-modernizing will kill the essence. But there are people who would always go for the real experience, I believe.
So do you think, you know, with the use of VR, because I know this is quite a hot topic at the moment as well, where you can actually plan your trips with the use of VR, and you can take a look at what you're about to do, and especially with these immersive experiences, does that ruin the whole point, though? Once you've, you know, used that type of technology, you've almost already done it. So do you think it's, what are the pros and cons around that?
So I think it really helps in promoting a destination, that's for one. For the visitors, for the travelers, it definitely helps them in planning their itinerary, or for that matter, even deciding whether they do want to go to a particular destination or not. However, I think once, I mean, if you use it as a marketing tool or for the end user to really plan themselves out, I think the actual experience of being in a particular place is extremely important. Because you see, you can use technologies to get to know a place, but the real experience of traveling, experiencing the local food, local culture, interacting with the local community, the people, is not something that you can, unless you actually experience it, it's not something that you really get to feel. So it's really got to be a right balance between the two. I don't think it's really a fight, this or that, or who's going to win. I just believe, the two can really work together to create a better experience for visitors. Yeah.
And a great way to promote different destinations, of course, because it's all about what you're about to experience, or what you can experience at the end of the day. So yeah, it really is raising the bar. It's also raising expectations, though, I suppose, as well. But yeah, really interesting indeed. So just with a minute to go, tell us what you're sort of seeing in terms of the future of travel. 5 to 10 years from now, where do you think we're going to be? What type of experiences do you think are going to sort of shift our focus? I mean, COVID very much changed the way we travel and the way we think about the world and things. So, I mean, goodness knows what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Hopefully nothing like that ever again. But the traveller in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of the way technology is advancing right now?
I think we are all very, very clearly visualizing the traveler to be a lot more hands-on on the device and booking things on the go. As of now, there's a lot of planning that the traveler still does. I think there will be two parts to it. The popular routes will be on the go, and the not so popular experiences, which is the immersive experiences. Those are the things which will get into the planning phase of it. And this entire story will be dominated by AI. I don't see travel companies having a lot of destination experts. I don't see them having a lot of salespeople. I don't see them customizing packages. It's all going to be on the go, on the tech. People can look at things, book themselves, and be done with it. The way we are doing e-commerce today, I clearly see travel holidays becoming e-commerce as we move ahead.
Really interesting. What's your take on maybe the future traveller as well as the trends?
Absolutely. I was just going to say, we talked about technology, we talked about AI, we talked about sustainability, ecotourism. I think health and wellness is something that is really going to pick up. Be it physical or mental health. There's going to be huge advancement, I think, over the next decade or so in terms of mobility, transportation, also in terms of connectivity, the way we look at, passport scanning, airports, and, those kind of things. I guess, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, there will still be people like me around who will want traditional forms of hospitality, yeah?
Brilliant. Well, really, really fantastic to have you both here. Sadly, we have run out of time. Cannot thank you enough for those insights, and fascinating to see what's happening in the travel industry right now, and very exciting to see what's ahead of us as well. So thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Chitra and Vikramjit, thank you. And yes, any further questions, please do make sure to speak to any of our speakers as they come off the stage or in the break just outside. Well, ladies and gentlemen, next up we have May Ben Khadra, who is going to be moderating our next session to talk about creativity and influence in social media. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laura. Hello again. Thank you so much, Laura. In the investment world, we say cash is king, but on social media, content is king. And this is what we're going to be talking today about. And I would love to welcome our speakers, Sharol Jaitli, co-founder and managing partner at Mighty Group, as well as Suhail Seth, managing partner, Consulage India Private, Vivek Oberoi, head of Oberoi Family Office, and joining us online is Amish Tripathi, best-selling author. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's hear a round of applause for our speakers. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. Thank you so much for joining us. And Amish, can you hear us loud and clear?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you so much for making time to join us at IGF this year. I would love to start with a question addressed to all of you. I would love to hear your thoughts, starting with you, Cheryl. And social media sometimes can be a challenging place, and especially when it comes to when you're trying to build your brand, your social presence, and your social image. What are some of the challenges that you faced with regards to these topics?
Can you hear me well? Hello. Let me just engage with the audience for a second. Show me with a raise of hand how many of you are on social media. No, not all. Some people are not raising their hands. Either are they choosing not to tell us.
Okay, so who is not on social media?
Who is not on social media? Oh, wow.
But
we have a couple of people.
But she has some very severe reasons for not being there.
LinkedIn is also social media now.
It is. I have another question.
Baby
How many
steps.
of you have less than 5 handles on social media? Less than 5? Okay. That's a fair bit, right? So here are some interesting facts, right? Over 63% of population around the world is on social media. Perhaps numbers can go by a percentage here and there, but we all know, right? On an average, 8 handles are managed, operated, owned by every individual, right? It's a lot, right? If you put things in perspective, the very reason I'm sharing stage with some very commendable names on the stage here is because I leveraged social media to do something for me that I wanted it to do, which is to build a brand. Now that comes with a price, and because the question is about challenges, I'm going to focus on that. I think there are some very, very strong and compelling reasons for us to be very cognizant of what goes on our handles. One, it becomes a social responsibility of who it is that you're representing and what it is that you're sharing. With 63% of population on social handles having access to over 8 handles on an average, can you imagine the impact you create by even one post that you make? I will let you do the maths, right?
And the post is forever.
Yes, and it's, thank you, right? It stays there forever, right? Unless, of course, you are Elon Musk and you decide to take something off, right?
Or Suhail Seth in India.
Or
Elon Musk and Suhail Seth are the only 2 people who can get away with anything.
Yeah, and I think the other responsibility is about the compliances. The regulation is very, very important. So the bodies like GDPR, CCPA, they're coming into place and telling us to put those checks and balances in place, I think is highly, highly critical. So for me, you know, regulation, responsibility, leveraging the mega trends to use it to your advantage, but kind of not stepping out of the boundary line of what is sane and what is not, has been the core principles that have allowed me to create the brand that I am today. So I'll take a pause there.
So I would love to hear from you, Vivek, as well.
Sure. Look, I think Charu is, of course, very knowledgeable and has deep insights into the technical aspects of challenges. But I'd like to focus more on the mental aspects of challenges. And not starting with the whole negative tirade, because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, social media making life hell. But social media can do a lot of good too. But when you're setting up your social media, the first question you have to ask yourself is, what do I want this exercise to do for myself? Whether you're a company, whether you're an individual, what do you want to gain out of this? Are you trying to monetize this social media? Are you trying to be a content creator and make money as you sell it? How do you innovate on that? How do you become a clutter breaker? What makes it go viral? What do people want to see? So the 2 primary differences I realized is that one is taking an approach which says, what do people want to see? And the second is saying an approach which says, what do I want people to see? I think if you're building a brand, if you have a communication tool through social media, like most of my companies do, then it's about what we want them to see. And then if you're a content creator just looking to monetize people's time, because that's what it is, content is king and time is the new currency, right? So the whole idea is, how can I grab more eyeballs, capture more time? Because unfortunately, a lot of the youth today still believe that they have less money and more time. As they grow older, they'll realize it's inverted, right? So time's easily spent. It's an easily spent currency. But if I told somebody for every 5 minutes of watching Instagram, you had to pay $5, they would stop. They would be very focused on what they're spending their time on, because they haven't found the equation of time equals to money yet. We learn ROI, we learn ROE, return on equity, return on investment, but we don't learn ROTI, which is return on time invested, right? And in Indian, our mothers teach us roti very early.
So I have a question to you, Suhail, and as well as Amish. I work in media. It's only logical for me to have an account on social media. But for some people who have great careers and very successful, do they need to have an account on social media as well and have like, I don't know, 100,000 followers and million of followers? Do they need it?
It depends. I mean, to each his own. Are you going to tell Donald Trump that he doesn't need a Twitter account? No. And will he listen to you? Certainly not. So it's an obtuse question to ask. Do they need a social media handle? If they think they need it, they need it. Narendra Modi has it. People in the UAE government have it. You have it. Amish Tripathi, who's a great author, has it. You have to understand that everyone uses tools for their own reasons. To say that, oh, I only use Instagram to build a brand is all bunkum. Half the jokers on Instagram are either non-branded people or talk rubbish. Half the guys on Twitter are twits. So it really doesn't matter. We all say, oh, these. You always recognize only one thing, that amplification in media can only get you this far and no further. Content is important if content is relevant. So I will talk from personal examples. I have 4.6 million followers on Twitter. Not one of them has been bought. A, because I can't afford it, and B, Vivek Oberoi hasn't yet given me part of his company. How do I use my Twitter feed? And Amish is witness to that. Many a time I tweet a brilliant book that Amish Tripathi may have written. But I always tweet when there is need for blood. So if anyone says that we are running short of A positive or O positive or whatever it is, will you tweet? I do that.
I love that, man.
I love dogs. I love my pets. So I always tweet whenever there is any atrocity against pets or when we need help with relocating, stray pets. But most of the time, I'm screwing people for their stupidity on Twitter. And I love it.
So
does it make me... 1 minute, I haven't finished.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry.
You see, you're a good human being. Don't be like these BBC people who interrupt, because we are from India. We invented the Kama Sutra. We know multiple positions. So the other thing is...
Don't interrupt when I'm interrupting.
Oh, okay, you're interrupting. He's forgiven. So I want to just say one more thing. Social media is like a knife. You can use it to kill or you can use it to butter your toast. You decide what you want to do with it. Now, a lot of people are using, and as Charles said, a lot of people are using social media to present their perspectives if they are individual brands, or present the perspectives of companies. Is social media being misused? Like everything else. Is social media being abused? Like everything else. Do you have trollers on social media? Of course you do. But that's if you allow them that space. So I have a rule. I never block anyone. If someone abuses, I follow Mahatma Gandhi. I abuse them back with greater fervor. They give me one cheek, I take two away. Do I believe that social media has a great role to play? Of course. Does it have a pernicious role to play? Yes. I don't think social media is dead. What is dead is the revitalization of our conscience. So people on social media must be, as she rightly said, they must be responsive, they must be responsible, and they must be held to account. Because you cannot incite rioting, you cannot create a fake narrative, or to quote someone who met me outside, narrative, and you cannot have someone actually muddy the waters because they think it's important to make a point. That's the limited point. Yes, Amish, now you may interrupt at will.
Now, I just wanted to kind of summarize what you were saying. And it's about creating a positive impact.
Not at all. You haven't summarized it at all. No. I said there will be negativity, there will be positivity, to each his own. And this is the first time that someone has tried to summarize me, but I'm glad that you've made that attempt. Because I thought I was very crystal clear in terms of what the points were.
Yes, they are crystal clear, but I'm just trying to highlight.
Crystal and clear.
It's all right.
No, listen,
okay.
I'm just joking here. These people have paid me 10 dirhams each. They've said 10 dirhams if you can make us laugh. They've been in boring sessions all day. That's what I'm doing.
I love that. And I'm just trying to pick up something to take to Amish to talk about.
Amish doesn't need anything, my dear. He's one of India's finest authors. He's born and he will die in fiction. So don't worry about Amish.
Even if you don't ask Amish a question, he'll have 600 pages of answers.
Okay, so let's.
That's why I wanted to come in before Amish. Remember, one guy wrote the Ramayana. He's written 6 versions of that. He's Valmiki's pop.
So, let me just put it in 2 words. Amish, to you.
That's 3. That's 3.
Thank you.
Again, I'm summarizing you. Amish to you is 3.
All right, thank you. That was beautifully done. Look, what I think Vivek and Suhail really summarized it perfectly. Social media is a tool. As Charu said rightly, some can use it to build their brand. I have seen Suhail and Vivek use their following on social media for a lot of positive stuff. I always notice Suhail's tweet on blood donation and various other issues. Vivek, I'm sure you're aware, does wonderful charity work, particularly for children. And look, social media is a tool. It can be used for positive things, as they do. And yes, you have enough idiots who use it for negative as well. You can't uninvent social media. It's going to be here always. It's up to us what we want to do with it. I don't think we can force others on what they should do with it. The way I approach social media is, firstly, I've been forced by my publisher to open accounts because they needed to promote my books. I rebelled after I opened my Instagram account. After that, I refused to open any more. I think there's some more new now, Blue Sky and some other stuff. Like I'm not opening any more accounts. The other thing is that I use Twitter to follow people who I find interesting. So I rarely respond to trolls or people saying silly stuff. That's a waste of time. You're wasting energy. But you can actually find truly interesting people whose opinions can add to your understanding of the world. One of the things I like to do, however, it's a strategy I like to have. If I follow anyone on Twitter, Instagram, who could be considered, say, left-wing, I always follow a right-wing guy for balance. I like to ensure that I'm hearing on balance both sides, because the truth usually lies somewhere in the center.
What kind of disturbs me is that now we have people who only depend on social media and content creation on social media as their career. Like
why is it disturbing? I mean,
because it sets because it sets an unrealistic target and purpose for the young generation that I don't need to do much. I can just sit at home, create content, be an influencer, talk about makeup, talk about only.
It's not entirely true, to be honest. I mean, if you look at, have you read about what's happening in the short form content world, which is emanated from social media? So if you look at Kwai Shao, which is
this is the positive.
Quick Hand
this is the positive side.
Multi-billion-dollar story with microdramas. Now, how does the microdrama formula work? It's 30 to 120 seconds an episode, multiplied by 100 episodes for a story. Now, when I go through a script like Inside Edge, which is written for 40-minute, content pieces, for us to bring in cliffhangers, right, that keep you hooked to say, oh my God, I got to watch the next episode. It's very difficult to keep that creativity. They have to do it every 120 seconds because in the first 10, you're hooked. You want to watch the next one, and then you start paying from, 50 cents, 20 cents, 10 cents to consume each one. Now, this has become a potentially $10 billion industry as we speak today, one of the top industries in China, Korea, Japan, and coming into India very quickly. For example, Kuku FM is doing, 100 crores right now in revenue, mostly through this kind of structure. with micro pieces of content. So to keep it engaging, to bring in your creativity, to shoot it in a vertical format so that people can consume it within 30 to 120 seconds, and then make revenue based on the merit of that narrative and storytelling, is creating a whole new form of content.
This
So I
is
think
the
this
positive.
also
This
a
is
part.
amazing.
But it's a big part.
And this is playing
Like Suhail
a
said,
beautiful
it's a
and
knife.
value-added part.
No, but why
It's
are
a
you
knife.
disturbed? I'm very disturbed about the fact that you're disturbed.
I'm disturbed
Because
because
that points to a certain turbulence mentally. That's
I'll
what I'm
tell you
worried
why.
about.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because I see teenagers who are creating content that has no value. It just goes viral because it doesn't carry any value, and it sets unrealistic targets for even the younger generation. And just because it goes viral and because it's monetized, they believe that this is what they want to do when the others grow up. So this
Let's go in a structure.
If I
Because
may.
again, like yesterday, I'll be left out in round 2. So now let her go, then I'll finish.
Yes, sir.
If it takes more time, so be it.
Okay.
This bloody sitting at the end, we always get left out, yeah? And that poor guy will not be seen.
Why don't I let you go first?
No, you go first.
I'm going to lose my internet
This
connection.
guy broke. Typical actors, they break the sequence.
Sorry.
Okay.
I was disturbed by the fact that she was disturbed.
Now everybody is worried about my disturbance.
Sure. I'd like to bring about the fact here how I calibrate my content. So when I started, like everyone else, perhaps not everyone, but people that I know, you start to create a lot of content that you think you want to share versus what people want to see. I made the same mistake. So I'm choosing to be extremely vulnerable. And as I continued to grow my social media presence, I decided, or I understood, or calibrated myself, I can be either of three. This is my own calibration. I can either be a content creator, or I can be an influencer, or, which I choose to be, I can be a change maker. Now it sounds very idealistic, but I put only 2 scales to all these 3 calibrations. What are the 2 scales? One is the value and the quality of the content, and the other is the impact that I want to create with it. And that brings me to my third category, which is a change maker, because although I might not be making a lot of content, but I choose to make a huge positive impact with whatever content I make. And you could be on the first category, which is a content creator, and you could be churning a lot of content, but you could not be making any impact whatsoever. And that's fine. That's fine. From where I sit to the examples you gave, believe me, it's not only the young adults, there are adults, 60 plus and whatnot, who have so much of time on their hands, and they could be making handles showing their age as below 16 or whatever, and they could be posting some rather silly content, right? So it is in the data that we really find out who is posting what. But if you start to be responsible, and if you know what it is that you want the social media to do for you, and you calibrate your content, I think it's the day and age of digitization. If you're not on social media, you're missing the train, my friend. So I take a pause there. Are you happy with the speed and the quality of my
Well,
answer, sir?
it was a bit long-winded, but doesn't matter. Just to take off from where she left. You and I are not the arbiters of intellectual calibration.
I love it.
No one has died and left you, boss. You don't like someone's content, don't see it. You can't say, oh, she's talking about makeup, that will destroy teenagers. Have you commented on parenting? How many books, not you, how many books do people read today? I'm 61, I read 1 book a day, a proper book. Not, some comic floating around. So it all depends on your caliber and your moral compass, A. B. We are no one to judge how people make money as long as they're not breaking the law. Well, if they were selling cocaine on Instagram, I'd be worried. Actually, I wouldn't be worried. I'd be worried for the jokers buying it. But you cannot say, oh, you mustn't do this, you must. The days of being moral compasses for the rest of humanity are over. People will do what they do. You should be less disturbed and more exalted and exhilarated at the progress that mankind is making, because at the bottom of it all, social media is a democratic, egalitarian tool.
Absolutely.
It allows for the unheard to be heard, the voiceless to voice, and the silent to speak. That, to my mind, is a great contribution. It is up to your intellect and your level of discrimination to be able to determine whether this is good, bad, indifferent, fake, real. No one is asking you, no one is holding a gun to your head saying, look, since you're disturbed, you must not see this content. Don't see it. Everyone has the power to say no. But the power to prevent people from being on social media must not be given to any human being. And that's why what Elon Musk did after he got Twitter, changed it to X, was he made the medium less fractional and less fractious. He made it more egalitarian. That's what we need. We need more voices to be heard. We come from a civilizational legacy, my dear, where we have tolerated dichotomies of ideas. That's why we are who we are. You live in the United Arab Emirates. The history of the UAE is superb. Today, Dubai is a melting pot, not just economically, but of cultures, of civilizations. I think this is the time to celebrate. It is not the time to be despondent and cynical. And I hope you are less disturbed now.
Okay,
Amish, I would like.
Yes,
Amish.
Completely agree with the point Suhail has made. Regrettably, the problem is I have very little to add to what he said. He's right. Social media has made it a conversation. Mass media earlier used to be a sermon from the mount, right? And the voiceless have a right to say what they want to say as well. The only thing I would add to this, that those among the youngsters who see being an influencer or on social media as a great way to make money, it can be challenging. They need to be aware of that, right? There are some influencers who make tons of money. Many actually don't make enough to pay the bills at the end of the day. The reality in today's day is if your purpose is to make money, to make a living, not to be famous. If you want to be famous, social media is a great place. If your purpose is to make a living, many of the so-called boring industries are actually a lot better. Plumbers in the UK are making more money than journalists, right? Ball bearings, those kind of things which we used to laugh at. You get into a career on that, you'll actually make a decent living, good money. Manufacturing, things like that. So it depends on what you want to do. If your aim is to be famous, nothing wrong with it. Go on social media. Just be aware.
Amish, let me ask you this. What kind of content would you like to see on social media as an author?
You know, the beauty of social media, can I just say this? The beauty of social media is I get to decide. Look, I don't want to, I like to read different points of view. I like to read on geopolitics. I like to read on philosophies. So now I would read books of those things earlier. I would read scientific journals. I would read things like that. But I can find that content on social media as well. Someone else wants to read on makeup, their choice. I'm not going to read it. Someone else wants to read it. They can find it on social media. That's the beauty of this conversation. It's up to the listener. It's up to the watcher. We can pick what we want to learn about.
Had vada pav?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever had vada pav?
Yes.
So now, if you look at YouTube videos of vada pav, it will bring you to a state of exalted glory. All the disturbance will go. Because that's what I like to see. I like to see how food is made, vada pav, pav bhaji, mutton curry. We are not interested in who's killing who, because we'll see the blood in any case.
Okay, let me ask you this. I would like to hear your thoughts around it. Do you think that we, as a human race, are more connected today with social media than, I don't know, 50 years ago?
To my mind, that is the best question you've asked all evening, and I'll tell you why. No, I'll tell you why.
Thank you.
Look at the advent of man. The advent of man began with tribalization. We have returned to tribalization. We work within our own clusters. So you have your Instagram family, your Facebook family. Unwittingly, unknowingly, we have gone back to tribalization. We feel comfortable in non-threatening environments. We feel our way of attack or our way of revenge is by blocking people. So in many ways, we have returned to tribalization. It is not about interconnected, it's about interdependency. So I don't think we are connected. Because, also as Amish rightly said, social media has also become a tool of non-acceptance of contrarian views. And remember, my dear, what's your name?
May, my name is May.
May as in the month?
Yes.
Okay. Remember one thing, May, that come September, you will have to figure out only one thing. You can disagree without being disagreeable, and that will lead to the winter of content.
Thank you so much, sir. A round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry about our time.
No, we will take more time.
Suhail,
You
I'm
want
going to
more
use
time?
that line somewhere. I like it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Please, let's take a picture. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vivek. Thank you.
May God bless you.
Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of this year's edition of the IGF, I would like to take a moment to quickly reflect on the remarkable discussions that we've had. We talked about innovation, sustainability. We've talked about the emerging and dynamic economic opportunities in a rapidly evolving world. Thank you so much for joining us and hope to see you next edition. Thank you.
From humble beginnings in 1985, Javza has come a long way. We have expanded exponentially, growing into a thriving business platform. Today, Javza has become one of the largest business communities in the region that enables trade by providing efficient, productive, and innovative trade solutions. Javza is now a game changer in trade and logistics. The multi-modal connectivity expands your market's reach to all corners of the world. The unrivaled benefits of establishing your enterprise in Javza enhances your success to a whole new level. Javza today is a prestigious address for thousands of successful companies across multiple sizes, sectors, and specializations. At Javza, we are fueled by your trust and inspired by your growth.
We've come a long way to get to where we are today. From what started as a single dream to enabling millions of dreams. From a handful of experts to thousands in our team. From two-wheeler to becoming a financing leader, we cover the length and breadth of our nation. As India moves forward, we move forward. With resilience, resolve, and determination. With a focus on digital and innovation. We are relentless in our drive as we strive to meet and exceed the evolving needs of being Bharat ka digital lender. In a market filled with increasing choice, we needed to find our unique brand voice. As part of our journey to tell our growth story, we spoke to people across the country, covering all our stakeholders from customers, channel partners, and employees. We sought inspiration in their values and aspirations. We breathe new life in our brand identity, framing human stories through windows of opportunity, reflecting our vision to empower upward mobility, broadening horizons through financial accessibility. Our loans symbolize a dose of confidence, the confidence to make it happen, the confidence to take action, to form collaborations, to go further than we have ever before, to become an inspiration and hero to all. Hero FinCorp, the confidence to make it happen.
here, possibilities are everywhere. From taking first steps here, to beginning your own wealth journey here. From backing global trade ambitions here, to delivering on that promise here. From representing a team here, to empowering lives here, here, and here. That's why we're here on the ground. Here where you need us, in the world's most dynamic markets. A bank that connects potential to possibilities. So, where will you go from here?
In the heart of India's economic resurgence, a powerful pulse drives innovation and growth. This is ET Now. From breaking news to market insights, we bring you stories that matter, analysis that empowers, and shape the economic landscape of the nation. Join us as we navigate market complexities and spotlight global change makers. ET Now. Rise with India.
I really enjoy it.
One of the strengths of your country is clearly its youth. You have so many young people in a vibrant society with a lot of creativity.
It's trusted and reliable and curated. I'm a big fan.
Social in a good way. So the intent was to create a headline, possibly get featured in one of those brute videos.
मेरा ही डिजाइन है और 1 महीने में मैंने इसको बनाया है.
Yeah, we're a couple.
It is very liberating.
You have a famous hair flip that you do?
That's true. I haven't done it.
Hit us with it.
Okay.
Oh, wow, brilliant.